of the gender-based violence and femicide report recommendations into practice require a lot of resources, both human and financial.
This is a really exhaustive report with clear recommendations. And the challenge now for government, and this is where we need to hold them accountable, is to implement the recommendations. So it has taken a year, but from my understanding, there is a discussion within government and commitment by the president himself to provide funding for a comprehensive program and bringing all ministries together to ensure that there is a holistic response to the recommendations.
So government departments like health, education and justice would share responsibility for implementation instead of one department being in charge.
We still have serious institutional gaps when it comes to survivor protection, case tracking. There's a lot of pressure at the community level. Witness protection would be key. But I do believe that if we to have this holistic program in place that look into prevention, response, and bringing relief to survival of gender-based violence, and this program is budgeted, we should be in a position to make some progress.
So returning to our main question, is Kenya serious about ending femicide? The Presidential Task Force engaged public and professional voices as part of a detailed nationwide investigation into gender-based violence and femicide. The extent of that commitment rests on what new policies are delivered and when. As for wider Kenyan society, confronting ingrained attitudes and expectations that protect and empower the men who target women and girls will never be easy. But it's crucial here because it might be the difference between life or death. Last word to our expert witness, Shailene Mumani.
Ending femicide is possible because civil society is already doing its work. We are already educating the public. We are creating awareness. The state needs to do something. They need to act. The justice system needs to do justice to the women of Kenya.
Thank you for joining us on The Inquiry from the BBC World Service. To find past episodes like Is Turkey Getting More Dangerous for Women or Is Trouble Brewing for the Worldwide Tea Industry, search the Inquiry podcast feed wherever you get yours and subscribe for updates. This episode of The Inquiry was written and presented by me, Charmaine Cozier. The producer was Jill Collins, researcher Evie Yabsley, editor Tom Bigwood and technical producer Toby James.
That was The Inquiry from the BBC. I'm Saroja.
Good morning, Manitoba. It is Wednesday, July 15th. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in for Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us this morning. Let's say hello to our team. Abby Adiemi is our technical producer. Darren Morash is our YouTube live stream producer. And Corey Funk is our show director this morning. And Heather Wells is here with news headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, the family of a Winnipeg man killed by police on Monday in Linden Woods says he was kind and lived with mental health issues. Manitoba's police watchdog says the 42-year-old man was shot by an officer outside a home. They say they got a 911 call from a man reporting a family dispute. Erica Smith says the man who died was her brother-in-law and may have been in a mental health crisis. We'll hear more from her. And a Steinbach wheelchair rugby court is providing a community for disabled athletes. More than 20 people took in a free wheelchair rugby event hosted by the Manitoba Wheelchair Sport Association. We'll hear all about it in our next local news coming up at 6:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. Well, coming up today on Information Radio, we are experiencing historic temperatures in Winnipeg this summer and across Manitoba. It's a major challenge, especially for renters living without air conditioning. Yet there aren't any bylaws limiting extreme heat in rental units. Coming up, we're going to hear about the indoor temperature limits in Toronto, laws that some say could be a solution for us here. Also, this week, U.S. ICE officers shot and killed a 26-year-old father in Maine. This marks the fourth person to be shot and killed by ICE this year and the second in 1 week. We will have more on what's happening with ICE in the U.S. And later, a tragic encounter with a bat has led the Canadian Medical Association Journal to discuss a rare case of a person contracting rabies. We'll find out what happened and what we can learn from it. And coming up after 8 o'clock, some organizations in the West End are applauding the recent police crackdown on open drug use and say they want more initiatives like this in the future to help reduce crime. We will hear more coming up on Information Radio. Stick around. We'll have those stories and more weather updates, commute updates. Stay with us.
On cue.
Hi, I'm Jill Deacon, sitting in for Tom Power. When British conductor Alexander Shelley first took over as music director of the National Arts Centre, he faced a lot of expectations. Now, after 11 years and a long list of career accomplishments, Alexander is stepping down. He'll look back on his time with the NAC.
It has changed me quite fundamentally.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Iranian forces launched missile and drone attacks against U.S. military facilities in Bahrain, Kuwait, and Qatar. An Iranian Shahed drone explodes after hitting a warehouse in the port town of Al Shuaiba in Kuwait. Washington reinstated a naval blockade on Iran. Last night, in an interview on Fox News, U.S. President Donald Trump threatened further escalation. Trump promised to destroy civilian infrastructure unless Tehran resumes negotiations.
Next week, it gets really bad for them because next week comes the power plants. Next week comes the bridges. We're going to knock out all their power plants. We're going to knock out all their bridges unless they get to the table and negotiate.
Under the 1949 Geneva Conventions, military strikes on civilian infrastructure are forbidden. It is expected to be an intense 2 days for acting U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche. He wants the job, but first he will be grilled by the Senate Judiciary Committee. U.S. President Donald Trump's former personal lawyer has been accused of conflicts of interest and mishandling the Jeffrey Epstein files. The CBC's Willie Lowry joins me now from Washington. And Willie, what are we expecting today?
This is by no means a slam dunk for Todd Blanche. He may be the acting attorney general, but members of the Senate Judiciary Committee want to dig into his close ties with President Donald Trump. He served as Trump's personal defense lawyer before taking the number 2 job at the Justice Department. Democrats are likely going to press Blanche on his handling of the indictment of former FBI Director James Comey, as well as his handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files and their release. Blanche was in charge of the release of those files. In some instances, personal information of Epstein survivors was accidentally released. At least 2 of the 12 Republicans on the Judiciary Committee have expressed reservation over Blanche's nomination. The Judiciary Committee is made up of 22 senators, 12 Republicans, and 10 Democrats, so Blanche cannot afford to lose any Republican support if he hopes to make it to a wider Senate vote.
You mentioned Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein survivors will be part of tomorrow's testimony. What can you tell us about that?
That's right. At least 8 survivors of sex offender Jeffrey Epstein will attend today's hearings, and then tomorrow, Danny Bensky will appear before the panel. She is one of several Epstein survivors who put out a video ad criticizing Blanche.
Todd Blanche failed us. He failed victims everywhere.
We deserve better.
Our country deserves better.
Vote no on Todd Blanche for Attorney General.
Vote no.
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 Vote no on Todd Blanche for Attorney General.
They're criticizing Blanche for releasing their personal information, including, in some instances, nude photos.
Thank you, Willie.
Sure thing.
The CBC's Willie Lowry in Washington. A professor in the U.S. is accusing his students of using artificial intelligence to cheat. And the economics professor at Brown University says it could point to a much larger problem. He says he has proof. And as Magda Cabra-Salasa tells us, some Canadian academics say they're not surprised.
There's much about Brown for which we are incredibly proud.
That's Brown University's online welcome video. But with allegations of student fraud linked to AI, school pride is likely taking a hit. Roberto Serrano, a professor of economics, believes that most of his first-year students in one course cheated. Serrano assigned a take-home midterm exam for the first time in the aftermath of a fatal school shooting. The results shocked him. Students scored an average 96%, with evidence suggesting AI use. He changed the final to an in-person exam. A wave of students dropped out. The rest scored an average 48%.
I think it's concerning.
Alison Miller is not surprised. The Toronto Metropolitan University Academic Integrity Office Director says she's seeing a rise in academic misconduct and repeat offenders.
When you keep repeating the behavior, it's suspension, which leads to people losing student visas, people losing job offers.
While Brown University is reportedly reviewing the allegations, Rahul Kumar, an assistant professor at Brock, says research shows more students are using AI to do their work. He says in-person tests, oral exams, and debates can help address the issue. But institutions need to do more, like cap class sizes and provide professors with instructional support.
They still need to develop student capacity to work responsibly and ethically with AI.
Because he says employers will demand it. Magda Gebrselassie, CBC News, Toronto.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen is in Ukraine this morning. Von der Leyen is greeted by press and Ukrainian dignitaries at a train station in Kyiv. She was optimistic as she arrived in the capital, saying that the tide is turning in favor of Ukraine. Coinciding with her visit, Kyiv signed several agreements unblocking and unlocking access to EU defense programs. The deals provide Ukrainian companies with over $400 million to scale up military production. Parts of the Northwest Territories are also dealing with extreme heat and poor air quality. Wildfire smoke continues to linger. Air quality values are pushing into the higher risk levels. Territorial health officials say wearing a mask can make a difference in protecting health. The CBC's Samantha Lee has the latest from Yellowknife.
If you have an N95, there's a push on to protect yourself from the effects of wildfire smoke. Wear a mask. That's what the Northwest Territories' Chief Public Health Officer, Cami Candola, is recommending.
It's really important that mask is well-fitting, and it is recommended that you use that.
Yellowknife Emergency Room Dr. Courtney Howard agrees. There is no number of emergency room cases linked to wildfire smoke due to data tracking limitations in the Northwest Territories. Howard says any exposure to fine toxic particles in smoke causes inflammation and increases risk of respiratory disease, heart attack, cancer, and premature death.
We don't want our kids to get cancer long term. And so these are decisions we need to make on an everyday basis to protect our health now and into the future.
Yellowknife has been experiencing smoky days recently due to wildfires. We asked some residents what they think about the masking recommendation.
Personally, I don't. And I think it comes down to personal risk tolerance.
I never did, but I have seen people doing it, so yeah.
Would you consider doing it yourself?
Maybe. Maybe if it's too much, then yeah.
Certainly, if it was worse than we're experiencing today, I would consider it for sure.
Territorial officials are also urging people to regularly check air quality health indexes and use air filtration systems. But they say the best way to reduce exposure on smoky days may be the simplest solution of all: stay indoors. Samantha Lee, CBC News, Yellowknife.
The Winter Olympics may be 4 years away, but we know the Games will include 2 new sports. One of them is synchronized skating. It is part of the International Olympic Committee's effort to achieve gender parity. And as Jay Turnbull explains, it could mean more medals for Canada.
It's 7 a.m. inside this chilly Montreal arena. A couple of dozen figure skaters break into groups of 4 and glide effortlessly along the ice in perfect unison. The members of this synchronized skating team, Les Suprêmes, are among the world's best, having represented Canada in several world championships. Soon, the stage will get even bigger. Some of them will be Olympians. Calgary's Sadie Nicholson hopes to be among them.
I was so excited. I woke up to
a billion texts from my friends, my family, Instagram. Everyone's so excited. I mean,
it would be a big deal for these women. Nicholson says she pays about $1,500 per month just to train and compete. She hopes being part of an Olympic team would make it easier.
Well, it's the most beautiful sport in the world. First of all,
Mary-Lynn Langlois is the team's coach. She's had her heart broken in the past when she thought the sport would debut in the Olympics. Now that it's finally going to happen, I had an important question. So what are Canada's chances in 2030 to come home with a medal?
I think they're pretty big. We've been winning 4 world championships in 5 years, so I think we showcase that we're very, very strong right now.
In 2030, for the first time in history, there will be more women than men competing for medals at a Winter Games.
Yeah, bravo.
These Canadian women see it as a golden opportunity. Jay Turnbull, CBC News, Montreal.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime, cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in this morning for Marcy Marcusa. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. 89.3 FM, 990 AM on our YouTube live stream or anywhere on your CBC News app. Thanks for joining us. Well, coming up on the show, outcry continues to grow in the U.S. after immigration enforcement officers shot 2 men in separate incidents within a week. Coming up, more on what's happening with ICE in the U.S. Also, the U.S. and Iran may be at war, but neighboring countries in the Persian Gulf are living with the impacts. We'll zoom out and look at what this conflict has meant for the region. But first, today, Good Neighbor Brewing Co. and the Winnipeg Humane Society will be hosting a pet parade. We'll speak to an organizer of the event to learn more. But first, let's say hello and good morning to Heather Wells. She's here with news headlines.
Good morning. Well, the family of a Winnipeg man killed by police Monday night in Lindenwood says they are in shock. Manitoba's police watchdog says a 42-year-old man was shot by an officer after getting 2 911 calls from his brother. The caller telling police the man had locked him out of their house and was behaving erratically. Erica Smith says the man who died was her brother-in-law. She says he was kind and lived with mental health issues and questions whether police could have handled the incident differently. A group of West End organizations says it is pleased with the recent crackdown on open drug use. In an open letter, they praise Winnipeg police for work tackling open drug use and violent crime. We're going to hear a little bit more about that in our next local news coming up at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. Well, hello and good morning to the rest of the Information Radio team. Darren Morash is our YouTube live stream producer, and Abby Adiemi, our technical producer, is here this morning with a look at the forecast. Hello.
Good morning, Chloe. That yellow heat warning still continues across northern Manitoba. We're seeing it spread from Flin Flon into Lynn Lake. All the way it continues around the Norway House area, all the way towards Island Lake this morning. We're looking at daytime temperatures climbing into 29 and close to 30s with overnight lows still staying quite warm for that part of the province, and of course it will be impacting that region. At the same time, we still have wildfire smoke impacting air quality, hence the air quality warning we have in effect for a lot of areas in the northern part of the province from Flin Flon all the way towards the Norway House as well, and this is reducing visibility and making air quality really poor. But the good news is once the winds shift to the southwest by Thursday, we should finally start seeing things clear in that part of the province, but you still need to deal with it today into tomorrow. Today, right now in Winnipeg, we're seeing temperatures around 23 degrees. We climb to about 25 later, but the humidex is going to make it feel close to 28 degrees today.
All right. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
Also joining me is show director Corey Funk. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, so far a very quiet commute. I mean, we are in the throes of summer, but if you are walking, you're biking, you're driving, you see something, you can always give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
Tails will be wagging and heads will be turning at tonight's annual Pet Parade. Good Neighbor Brewing Co. is hosting all types of furry friends from 7 to 9 p.m. The event raises funds for the Winnipeg Humane Society. And Lauren Siddall is the operations director at Good Neighbor Brewing Co. and she joins us this morning. Hello.
Hello.
A pet parade is so fun. We've got videos or we've got photos from past events on our screen right now for our YouTube viewers. But what can people expect to see at tonight's pet parade?
Yeah, so this is always such a fun event. It is just full of, laughter and, and silliness. It's a bit of a goofy event, but we always love it. Every year to launch our Pet Pals Pills can release with the Winnipeg Humane Society, we have our pet parade. So pets will, owners will sign their pets up for the pet parade with a song that they want to walk to, a little fun fact about their pet. And then we parade all the pets down the patio to their chosen song.
Oh, I love it. Okay, the Pet Pals Pills? What's that?
Yeah, so the Pet Pals Pilsner is a limited release beer that we've done for 3 years now with the Winnipeg Humane Society. What we do is in May and June, we have a contest to get your pet on the can. And in this contest, we raise money for the Winnipeg Humane Society. When the contest closes, we tally up all of the votes and all of the good stuff. And then we end up with 4 winners that all end up on the 4-pack of cans. And those cans are released in our 2 bottle shops, so one on Sherbrooke Street and one on Osborne Street. And then it'll be available in LCs come August as well.
I want to ask about last year's event because I heard that there was an alpaca on the runway. Is that true?
Yes, it's always a fun event. You never know what you're going to get. I mean, I know because I have a list of everybody, but sometimes it'll surprise you. There's lots and lots of furry creatures or not furry creatures that have come out to the pet parade in the past.
Can folks still sign up for this or is it full?
The parade itself is full in terms of walking down that runway, but everyone is welcome to come. The formal programming parade starts at 7 p.m. You're welcome to come down earlier. This is at our tasting room and patio at 110 Sherbrooke Street this evening.
Do you know how many pets are taking part?
We have 30 pets.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very exciting. What's your advice on how owners and their pets can give a successful walk? Do you recommend like costumes or how does it work?
You know what? You got to do what works for you. You can't force a costume if that's not your jam. I would say it's just about having fun. Everybody there is so supportive. This is really just a feel-good community event. So don't stress out. Walk around, have fun. It's always great.
And I understand this is all to raise money for the Winnipeg Humane Society. Why is that important to the folks at Good Neighbor? Where did that connection first come from?
Yeah, absolutely. So Winnipeg Humane Society is just such a staple in our community and beyond. They do so much important work. So we've been thrilled to partner with them for 3 years in a row now. Every year the city supports us better than they did the year before. We're very thankful to have this partnership and be able to help support them in the amazing work that they do.
Do you have a pet yourself, Lauren?
I do. I have a dog.
Amazing. Okay, does your dog enjoy modeling, enjoy a pet parade?
She enjoys modeling, but she will not be there today.
Okay. I guess her owner is pretty busy today.
Yes, I'll be running around a wee bit, and I think that she would rather be visiting with everybody than having to keep up with me.
In terms of fundraising numbers, I know this is the fundraiser, especially the Pets on Pints aspect of it. It's been going on for a while. Do you know of any totals at this point?
The total that was raised for this year, so this year alone, and this is the 3rd year that we've done it, is $48,000 towards the Winnipeg Humane Society, which is absolutely incredible.
That is incredible. That is the right word for it. Lauren, what recommendations or what info do folks need if they want to come to the event tonight?
Absolutely. I would say this event tends to be busy, so I would get there earlier if possible. Things will be available from 6 p.m. onwards. This is at our tasting room. It'll all be outside, of course, because pets. It'll be on the patio and in the brewery backyard, which is located at 110 Sherbrooke Street. I would say, get there early, get a spot, have a couple drinks. We've got food from the restaurant next door, some vegan options if folks are needing. And sit back and relax.
Sounds like it's going to be a very cute event. Lauren, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Lauren Siddall is the operations director at Good Neighbor Brewing Co. The Pet Parade will be held at 110 Sherbrooke Street tonight from 7 to 9 p.m.
How do you listen to your favorite Manitoba shows when you're on the move? Get your daily dose of information radio, Radio Noon, and Up to Speed, live and on demand. Just open the CBC News app, tap the local drop-down, and hit play. It's the easiest way to keep our province at your fingertips. Download the CBC News app today.
Well, this was a big topic of discussion yesterday, but the Northern Super League announced its 7th team in the Women's League will be in Winnipeg. Later on the show, we are going to hear from a local university soccer player who's going to share her thoughts on the addition of this team, what it means for her and other folks who are playing university-level soccer, and what opportunities this provides for people like her. But coming up next on Information Radio, the U.S. and Iran are the ones at war, but it's the entire Persian Gulf that's caught in the crossfire. As airstrikes escalate, neighboring countries are increasingly finding themselves bearing the brunt of Iranian retaliation. And on top of that, access to the Strait of Hormuz remains inconsistent. And a U.S. military blockade on Iranian ports is in effect again. For a wider look at how this conflict is shaping the region, we've reached Arnd Jurgensen. He's a professor of political science at the University of Toronto. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me.
How frustrating would you say is this conflict for other leaders in the Persian Gulf?
I think that it has to be enormously frustrating. I think it has to be a real shock to their overall understanding of their situation in the international system. These countries were, for the most part, all countries that perceived themselves as closely aligned with the United States. Several of them hosted American military bases on their territory and viewed that close relationship with the United States and their willingness to host military assets in their territory as a source of security and stability in the region. And to a large extent, their economies are based on that relationship with the United States and on that stability insofar as it has allowed them to create themselves as investment hubs, as trade hubs, as tourist attractions, and so on. And all of that has been undermined through a conflict in which they were not consulted. That was quite clearly poorly thought out and illegal under international law, and for which they've had to pay an enormous price. Not only has the Strait of Hormuz been shut down and thus cut them off from their ability to earn income from reaching the world markets with their export commodities, but they've also seen their own territory attacked, and the United States has not been able to offer meaningful protection against those kind of attacks. And in that regard, they certainly have been badly damaged.
You mentioned those countries that harbor U.S. military sites. Some of those have become Iranian targets. Is that prompting them, you think, to reevaluate their relationship with the U.S.?
Without a question, and I think that that goes further than just the reevaluation on the part of those countries. It is also the United States that is reevaluating the value of having those military bases that they clearly were incapable of protecting from Iranian attacks. And in that regard, it is very much an open question whether those military bases will be reconstructed if and when this conflict ends. What
role do you think Gulf countries could play in ending this war?
Unfortunately, a fairly limited one. I think it is fairly clear that they have been communicating with the Trump administration in particular, and that several of the countries in the region have also reached out to the Iranians in order to facilitate, among other things, the memorandum of understanding that was primarily negotiated through Pakistani interventions. But quite clearly, they have an interest and have been attempting to do what they can to facilitate some kind of negotiation process and to wind down this conflict. Unfortunately, in that regard, their ability to do so is somewhat limited. The key players in this regard are clearly the United States and Iran, and to a secondary extent, Israel, that was part of starting this conflict. And the conflict obviously also includes the ongoing conflict in Lebanon. What influence the Gulf Cooperation countries can exercise in curtailing the interests or the policies of either Israel or the United States in this conflict seems to me to be a very much an open question. But that they are involved is evident by the fact that Donald Trump very quickly backed away from his demand that the United States take over the Straits of Hormuz and be able to charge 20% toll for all ships that pass through the Straits. And that was apparently as a result of an intervention by Gulf Cooperation countries that suggested that the United States would profit more greatly from allowing for greater foreign investment in the United States by these countries.
I want to talk about what happened last night. United States attacked Iran quite heavily, hitting dozens of targets. It happened after Trump threatened on Fox News last night that the U.S. would also target Iranian infrastructure like bridges and power plants. How much would that type of escalation complicate the current situation?
It will. I don't think it will have the impact that Donald Trump is hoping that it will have of causing Iran to back down. I think that Iran is digging in and is not likely to back down as a result of that. It should be pointed out that attacks on infrastructure are technically illegal under international law, as is blowing up civilian infrastructure like bridges and so on and so forth. So it will certainly undermine the standing of the United States in the international community in terms of its reputation as defending those kinds of principles. But I don't think it is likely to lead to any drastic changes on the Iranian side. But Iran can be expected to respond by retaliating. And insofar as the United States escalates, Iran will escalate as well. And the scope for Iranian escalation is somewhat more limited. It once again is primarily focused on those Gulf Cooperation countries that can be attacked. And if Iran chooses to attack oil installations, harbor facilities, and other infrastructure like desalination plants, that will have a devastating impact on those countries, and a devastating impact that will have ramifications for years, if not decades, whereas the Strait of Hormuz could be reopened tomorrow and restore the status quo ante if that were a possibility. In that sense, this is going in a very bad direction.
What would be the best outcome for the surrounding Gulf countries regarding some sort of peace deal between the U.S. and Iran?
The best outcome for the Gulf Cooperation countries would clearly be a return to the situation prior to the outbreak of this conflict. Whether that can be achieved is very much an open question. And I would suggest, as I think a number of the Gulf Cooperation countries' governments are already aware, is that the only way that kind of a situation can be achieved is by accommodating in one way, shape, or form the security demands as well as the demands for restoration of normal trade and so on with Iran. In other words, creating a kind of a security architecture that includes rather than excluding Iran.
What about worst-case scenarios?
Worst-case scenario is what we're seeing play out right at the moment. Further escalation that leads nowhere, and that will have drastic impacts, not just for the Gulf Cooperation countries for the reasons I just mentioned, but in the broader global economy, in that Europe is already running out of things like jet fuel, diesel fuel, and things along those lines. In that sense, this is going to have a far more drastic impact as the oil storage in Western countries and elsewhere around the world are starting to be used up, and we run into a real shortage of oil in global markets.
Arnd, I really appreciate your time and expertise this morning. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
Arnd Jurgensen is a professor of political science at the University of Toronto and chair of the Canadian Network for the Abolition of Nuclear Weapons. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and anywhere in your CBC News app or on your YouTube live stream. Just search up CBC Manitoba. Still lots to come here on Information Radio this week. U.S. ICE officers shot and killed a 26-year-old father in Maine. This marks the fourth person to be shot and killed by ICE this year and the second in 1 week. We will have more on that story still to come on Information Radio. As well, we will bring you to your CBC Business News Desk. We'll give you all the updates in business news and taking a look at some current temperatures here just before we head to your CBC local news. Currently sitting at 23 in the downtown here in Winnipeg. We've got a 30% chance of showers. We could see some precipitation here, looking at a high of 25 with a humidex feeling like 27. We'll have more on your weather forecast coming up just after your CBC local news.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells. The family of a Winnipeg man killed by police on Monday says he was kind and lived with mental health issues. Manitoba's police watchdog says the 42-year-old was shot by an officer outside a home in Lindenwoods. Police say they got a call on 911 from a man reporting a family dispute. The caller telling police his brother had locked him out of the house they shared and was behaving erratically, threatening to damage property. Erica Smith says the man who died was her brother-in-law and may have been in crisis. She questions how police handled the incident.
A lot of it is concern about mental health, and their reaction to mental health is my concern mostly. I don't think it could have ended like this.
Police say they always consider using the Alternative Response to Citizens in Crisis program, also known as ARC. It pairs plainclothes police officers with mental health workers to respond to non-emergent and non-violent crisis situations. Police say in this case, an ARC team was not sent. Manitoba's police watchdog continues to investigate. Former Dauphin MP Inky Mark admits breaking the law, but claims he didn't traffic weapons. He adds what police seized from his home this week was 50 years' worth of gun collecting, and the 78-year-old says he was thrown in jail for 2 days. Mark explains he transferred ownership of 3 firearms to someone else, which RCMP say is illegal.
I apologize to the court. I apologize to the people in Dauphin, the Parkland. I apologize to the people in Manitoba, even Canada. I've known so many people. I am sorry. I just did something absolutely stupid.
Mark says officers wrecked his home safe, which had $300,000 inside from selling his cottage and other property. He adds among the items taken, 3 Browning machine guns from the World Wars and several short-barrel weapons, which are now banned. Mixed reviews to the 10-day Winnipeg police crackdown on open drug use and trafficking. Some organizations praise the effort, but one outreach worker says it left the streets feeling militarized. Mitch Bourbonniere has been doing outreach work in the community for 47 years. He says he's never seen it this bad, but he thinks the focus should be on drug dealers, not users.
I'm not against the police. We need the police. But go after the predators. The people using are victims. The people selling are predators.
Winnipeg police ended their 10-day open drug use crackdown earlier this month. The results of the initiative have not yet been released. After Winnipeg's recent heat wave, there are calls for the city to adopt protections for renters in buildings without air conditioning. Some tenants and advocates have called for a maximum indoor temperature for rental units. Toronto's already proposed a bylaw to cap indoor temperatures at 26. Steph Shaver lives in an apartment on Langside. She can't open her windows or install AC because her building's window screens are being replaced.
If it's not a law, people won't do it. So you have to put those laws in place. But I definitely think, with the temperatures getting hotter and hotter here, that's becoming a must. And I think that they're sort of falling short of that stewardship, landlords, because they're no longer, providing an habitable place when the temperature can be as hot as it is.
The Professional Property Managers Association of Manitoba says it would like to install air conditioning in all their suites, but without support, the costs, it says, would put owners out of business. Now that Manitoba Hydro set a new record for electricity consumption, the provincial power utility has to demonstrate what it's doing to keep air conditioning on for decades to come. CBC's Bartley Kivas reports.
I've not been dealing with the heat.
Joyce German has spent Winnipeg's heat wave staying with friends.
At my house, there's no AC, so I've just kind of been struggling right now.
It's been so hot in Winnipeg, Manitoba Hydro set a new summer electricity use record on Monday. Hydro says it needs to generate more power. It has a multi-billion-dollar plan to do this by building 3 new natural gas turbines in Brandon and buying electricity from Indigenous-owned wind farms. At the end of the month, Hydro will come before the provincial energy regulator to present this plan. Scott Powell speaks for the Crown Corporation.
We believe the plan we've put forward to the PUB will meet our needs as a utility and our ability to ensure we have that ability to continue to supply our customers.
Critics say Hydro hasn't demonstrated the need for more power. 6 weeks of hearings begin July 27th. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Yesterday, we reported the owner of a cottage that burned down during the Lynn Lake forest fire, and 7 people who fled that fire have sued mining company Alamos Gold. In fact, the lawsuit was filed by an insurance company involved with the people named in the lawsuit. A Steinbach wheelchair rugby court is providing a community for disabled athletes. More than 20 people took part in a free wheelchair rugby event hosted by the Manitoba Wheelchair Sport Association. Paralympian Erica Schmutz wants to inspire people trying the sport for the first time.
When you're talking with other people, right, they're not going to know the things that you go through. And we're the Centric community, we've all been there, done that, and we know how to talk about it.
The first Steinbach wheelchair rugby team is slated to start playing this fall. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
No, thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. I'm Chloe Friesen. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Thank you for joining us this morning. Abby Adiemi is here with all you need to know about your forecast. How's it looking out there?
Well, we're waking up to 2 different stories across the province today. Down south, we're going to deal with damp humidity and some showers, and of course, a risk of thunderstorms in the mix. While for the northern part of the province, most regions still battling with this intense heat and wildfire smoke, hence the active air quality warning and heat warning present up north. But for the Red River Valley region, Winnipeg is starting the day cloudy at 22 degrees at this time. It will feel sticky as the temperatures will be climbing to a humid high of 25 later in the day. We will notice some breezy winds and then that slim chance of daytime showers ahead of a much better chance of stormy wet weather that's going to be coming our way later tonight. For other regions in the south, the Pembina Valley region, Morden and surrounding areas, we're looking at temperatures starting around 19 degrees. Also grey skies there, heading to a muggy high of 25, a slim chance of showers in the forecast there. Then we head over to the Westman region. Brandon damp at 19 at this time. We're seeing light rain there. It's going to stay cloudy today. Heavier showers expected, and the risk of thunderstorms will keep the afternoon high around 22 degrees in the Wheat City. Then we head to the Parkland region. Dauphin sitting at 19, cloudy there, climbing to a warm high of 26 today. Along the Interlake region, Gimli begins the day around 18 degrees and cloudy, aiming for a humid high of 27. Then we track into the northern and central part of the province, the Par Flin Flon, waking up to that thick smoke between 14 and 15 at this time. Heat is active in that part. Air quality warnings also impacting the area, though it's going to really build up quickly this afternoon. We'll see temperatures climb to about 30 degrees in that region. Then far north, Norway House, heavy smoke remains present there. We're looking at temperatures around 13 at this time. Temperatures really going to climb into the 31, 32s for that part of the province. Then Lynn Lake, Thompson, Gillam, we're seeing sunny and misty skies there, 12 to 16 degrees. That's what we're tracking. But we will see hot, smoky highs near 30 degrees. And of course, around Tudula Lake, it's bright and 11 at this time. Some sunshine present there, heading to a high of 23. Further north along the Hudson Bay coast, Churchill and the surrounding regions, We are seeing cool conditions there. Cloudy to start 12 degrees, climbing to a high of 17. Overall, southern Manitoba, we're seeing cooler but unsettled there with the risk of showers in some areas, while up north, we're looking at the heat and the smoke as the major concern today. Winnipeg, we're just sitting at 22 at this time, but it's going to feel like 27 later in the day.
Amazing, Abby. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Also, I love the sound of a busy control room, just like we planned it. Commuter
That's
line
the feel.
rings as you're doing it. Corey Funk hops on that line, gets the info you need.
Yeah, it actually wasn't about the commuter, something else entirely.
Look at
But glad I picked up, and thanks for the person who called. There actually is pretty quiet so far, actually,
Okay,
believe it or
cool.
not. It's been quiet out there, but if you do see something going on, you can call our commuter line, 204-788-3093.
All right, thank you very much,
Thank
Corey,
you.
and thank you to our very busy team here on Information Radio. Well, turning to someone else who is always very busy, Crystalie Ramlakan is here with a business report. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Chloe.
So the Bank of Canada is set to deliver its latest interest rate decision this morning. What are we expecting?
Well, economists widely expect the central bank to hold its policy rate steady at 2.25%, so no change. And while inflation has jumped above 3% in recent months, as higher oil prices from the Iran war sent gasoline costs skyrocketing over the spring, and then we're also seeing those prices start to climb again with what's going on in the Middle East. Officials at the Bank of Canada have made it clear they're willing to look beyond this initial price shock from the war. But they have said they are prepared to act if there are signs inflation is spreading beyond the gas pumps. Now, the bank will also publish new forecasts today showing how the war and other forces shaping the economy are affecting its outlook for growth and inflation. And recent data on growth and the labor market suggest the economy is rebounding modestly from a weak first quarter.
Next, you have some insights into how Canadians are spending. What can you tell us?
Yes, so a new report says consumer spending has grown across income groups, but only those in the top 20% of earners saw their income growth fully match and support their higher spending. So the Boston Consulting Group report looked at spending and income growth between 2021 and 2025. And it says outside of the top 20%, households covered their increased spending by relying more on things like savings, rising portfolio values, and borrowing. And for the middle 60% of earners, income growth covered just 57 cents of every dollar of new spending. And the lowest 20% of earners covered almost none of it. Now, spending on services drove most of the growth, including financial services tied to borrowing, and spending on essentials was actually flat, and purchases of things like cars, furniture, and appliances actually fell. And the savings and balance sheets for the middle 60% are moving more in the direction of the bottom 20% than the top 20%. Now, what does all of this mean for businesses? Well, the report says there's no longer a single average consumer for businesses to target, which means leaders need to build growth plans around a more uneven, financially constrained consumer. And it says middle-income consumers may become more selective and deliberate about their purchases. And, while asset gains have supported confidence, much of that wealth still sits in homes and other non-liquid holdings. And the report says if higher oil prices bleed into broader inflation, we were just talking about that, consumers may struggle to keep up even more.
And the first U.S. state is imposing a moratorium on data centers. What else can you tell us about that?
Yes, that's right. So New York will not build data centers for at least a year. The state says it is blocking new large data centers that fuel artificial intelligence to protect the environment and energy grid. So the facilities, as we know, require massive amounts of energy and water to cool thousands of servers. And the order pauses state permitting and directs regulators to create standards addressing environmental impacts and energy demand. Now, tech companies argue this could hurt job growth and cede ground to China in AI development. But of course, this is not the first place to do this. You guys just had a similar story there in Manitoba. So several locations across Canada, including there in Manitoba, Hamilton, Olds, Alberta, and Armour Township, Ontario, have either rejected or halted proposed AI data centers following public opposition.
All right. Thank you, Crystalie.
Thanks, Chloe.
That was Crystalie Ramlakan with the business news. Well, as we learned yesterday, the Northern Super League announced its 7th team in the Women's League will be in Winnipeg. It will be headed by Olympic medalist and retired NSL player Desiree Scott and coach Rob Gale. And it's moving full steam ahead, with the team planning on being ready for the 2027 preseason in February. Taryn Kabak is a midfielder for the University of Manitoba Bison's women's soccer team, and she spoke with the CBC's Andrew Nichols.
When I was younger, like growing up in Winnipeg, the opportunities to go anywhere further than university were slim, other than the national team or moving away from home, going to Europe or to the States. So it felt a little bit unrealistic. And now having a team like this in our backyard, it makes that dream feel so much more attainable. And I couldn't be any more excited to think about even the possibility of playing for a team like that.
Yeah, and it's just so exciting to see how this Northern Super League just keeps growing. You know, it's only in its second year, right? How would you assess the level of play in the Northern Super League right now?
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, of course, like in inaugural years, it's going to just keep growing crazy, like exponentially every year. But to see the difference in level between U Sports to that next level into the NSL is huge. And to be able to aspire to play at that level is something I've always wanted to do, of course.
Yeah, and tell me a little bit about like what that means to you. You're playing at the U Sports level. You're playing for the University of Manitoba right now. Now there's an opportunity for another pro team in Canada. You mentioned you don't necessarily have to go to Europe if that even becomes an option. What does it mean to have that opportunity?
It means the world. I mean, coming from someone who plays in university in my hometown, I love being at home. I love being with my family and friends. And I think that's definitely something that would prevent me from going elsewhere to play professional or at a higher level. So to have it in our own backyard, as I've said before, not only for my benefit or any other player's benefit to stay at home, but also just to be able to play in front of your entire community. It's something super special that no one in Canada has really had the opportunity before, other than previous years in the NSL. But for Winnipeg, this is huge.
So there's no name yet. Any suggestions? A name, colors?
So I have been thinking about it a little bit. One thing I love is Winnipeg Aurora FC, and I know that might be, but I really like it, and I think it could be some beautiful imagery, and it does go hand in hand with NSL's whole campaign there, so I don't know if we'd be allowed, but I really like it.
I like it too. That was Taryn Kabak. She's a midfielder with the University of Manitoba Bison's women's soccer team. She was speaking with the CBC's Andrew Nichols. And the expansion of the league comes after news of a $30 million investment from Apex, an international sports investment firm. With the addition of Winnipeg, the league now has 7 teams. The others are in Montreal, Toronto, Halifax, Vancouver, Ottawa, and Calgary. The time is 6:47. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Well, Celine Dion is back with another new single. This is her second new song this year. It's inspired by a Hawaiian prayer where you say, "Forgive me, thank you, and I love you" every morning facing the ocean. Here's Celine Dion with Bonjour, Pardon, Merci.
Si l'eau ne prend que la couleur que la lumière lui donne, quand la vie m'habille de noir, eh bien moi je lui pardonne. Qu'on soit d'ici ou d'ailleurs, nous ne sommes que des hommes, forgés par nos erreurs, que seul amour console. Bonjour, pardon et mille merci à l'heure. pour toutes les fois où elle m'a couverte d'or. Bonjour, pardon, merci. Il manque un verre à ce poème, un mot qui nous unit. Bonjour, pardon, merci, je t'aime. Combien de temps va-t-elle rester cette marque de rouge à lèvres? Il y a ces moments donnés que le temps nous enlève. On n'en aura jamais assez, on en manquera toujours. On n'a jamais trop donné, ni trop reçu d'amour. Bonjour, pardon, et oui, je t'aime encore. De tous les sentiments, ce dernier est le plus fort. Bonjour, pardon, merci. Il manque un verre à ce poème, un mot qui nous unit. Bonjour, pardon, merci, je t'aime. Regarde, il nous sourit. L'univers entier nous appelle. Du fond des galaxies. Bonjour, pardon, merci, je t'aime. Tu te barres de rose, tu te fardes, tu brilles de mille paillettes. Comme un soldat monte la garde face aux démons dans sa tête. Et si parfois toi aussi tu as peur de ne pas assez briller de l'intérieur. Bonjour, pardon, merci. Il manque un verre à ce poème, un mot qui nous unit. Bonjour, pardon, merci, je t'aime. Regarde, il nous sourit. L'univers entier nous appelle.
The one and only Celine Dion with her new song, Bonjour, Pardon, Merci. It's a very cinematic sounding tune. I like it. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. The time is 6:50. Well, coming up next, two men. One, a 26-year-old with a toddler. The other, a 52-year-old with 3 adult children. One lived in Maine, the other in Texas. But both were shot and killed by U.S. immigration enforcement officers, while in their cars this past week. And yesterday, the Associated Press reported that a man died while fleeing ICE officers in Florida. The deaths are making headlines, but the reaction from officials and the public is different compared to earlier ICE killings. Linda Feldman is the Washington bureau chief for the Christian Science Monitor. She joins me from Washington, D.C. with more on what's happening with ICE. Good morning.
Morning.
So what do we know so far about what happened during these shootings?
So there's a lot we don't know. In both shootings, the officers involved were not wearing body cameras. So we don't know exactly what led to the shootings. They're in one case they're claiming that the vehicle was weaponized, that the driver was supposedly threatening the officers. But without video of the actual moment of the shooting, it is very hard to know exactly what transpired.
And what about what happened on Tuesday in Florida? How is that case different?
Right. So that was somebody apparently who was fleeing a scene with ICE agents. He was fleeing on foot and ran into traffic and was hit by a tractor trailer and died.
How are Americans reacting to these latest ICE shootings?
So locally, in both Houston, Texas, and in Biddeford, Maine, we're seeing protests. We're seeing local immigrants' rights organizations and politicians, particularly Democrats, expressing outrage. But I would say in terms of a national reaction, it's more muted than what we saw in January when you had the shootings of Americans protesting ICE actions in Minnesota.
Right. Why do you think we're seeing less backlash? I think you were referencing the killings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy there.
Right, exactly. No, I think with the Preddy and Good shootings that led to both deaths, those were cases of Americans, native-born Americans, protesting ICE, and ICE way overreacting. And so I think the sad reality is that there's more sympathy among Americans for native-born Americans who were shot and killed by ICE rather than immigrants. So you get, immigrant males who maybe speak with an accent, who are in the Houston case, he was not in the country legally, and not the subject of the ICE raid, by the way. The young man in Maine, also not a native speaker of English. And I think it's, there's just less sympathy in those cases.
What about the political reaction? What have we heard so far?
So the political reaction is falling along party lines, but I will point out that in Maine, the most endangered Republican in the U.S. Senate, heading into the November midterm elections, she has been very vocal about this shooting and killing of this young man. And she had actually reached out to the Secretary of Homeland Security, Mark Wayne Mullen, and urged an end to all, quote, non-urgent vehicle stops. Yesterday, it was announced that they had indeed paused these vehicle stops by ICE agents. But the latest news is that just minutes ago, Donald Trump posted on social media that these traffic stops should continue, and that ICE is doing good work, and we have to support them give them all the tools at their disposal, including stopping people in their cars. So we're now seeing conflict within the Trump administration over how to proceed.
There seems to be a pattern of people having fatal encounters with ICE, particularly when they're in their vehicles. Is that because of the nature of the traffic stops, or why do you think that is?
So a car is potentially a deadly weapon, and I think you get these ICE agents, some of whom are not, frankly, trained enough to be doing this work. You get them, maybe they're overreacting, maybe they for some reason had a good reason to shoot, but I think there are a number of factors at play here, including the fact that ICE, since Donald Trump returned to office, ICE has added, thousands of new agents to go after undocumented migrants, and they have not had as much training as ICE used to offer. They're saying they're going to increase the training, but this doesn't help the people who've already died.
Do you think we'll see any consequences for the ICE officers involved in these shootings or officials who are running ICE now?
I frankly have a hard time seeing that. I mean, both of these shootings are under investigation, but given the adamancy with which the Trump administration is fighting illegal immigration, I don't see the government going after any ICE agents who shoot migrants.
Linda, appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Sure, my pleasure.
Linda Feldman is the Washington Bureau Chief for the Christian Science Monitor. She joined us from Washington, D.C. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Let's head to CBC's Heather Wells with a look at news headlines.
Good morning. Well, the family of a Winnipeg man killed by police Monday night in Lindenwoods says they're in shock. Manitoba's police watchdog says a 42-year-old man was shot by an officer after getting 2 911 calls from his brother. Erica Smith says the man who died was her brother-in-law. She says he was kind and lived with mental health issues. She believes police could have handled the case differently. And mixed reviews on the 10-day Winnipeg police crackdown on open drug use and trafficking. Some organizations praised the effort by police, but one outreach worker says it left streets feeling militarized. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 7:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. Well, still lots to come in the next hour of Information Radio. Some Winnipeg senior care homes continue to deal with broken air conditioning during this extreme heat. We're going to speak with an advocate about why heat can be especially harmful to senior citizens, and also continuing on this heat we are seeing in Manitoba and across much of the prairies in Canada here. There may be laws on keeping renters warm in the winter here in Winnipeg, but so far there is no legislation limiting temperatures in Winnipeg rental units in the summertime. We're going to learn about the heatwave bylaws in Toronto and how they're doing it there, and whether or not something similar would work here in Winnipeg. Stay with us here on Information Radio. Those stories, much more still to come. World Report is next.
On the Current.
I'm Pia Chattopadhyay.
We're going to open up all of these today. And you know what? We're hoping to find a numbered sticker.
All around the world, the official Panini FIFA World Cup 2026 stickers are flying off the shelves. What's driving this craze, and why is this such an enduring FIFA tradition? That's coming up on The Current.
The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. The U.S. is exerting military might to pressure Iran into signing a deal that suits U.S. President Donald Trump. But the squeeze is resulting in a cycle of military strikes. Last night, the U.S. conducted its longest bombing campaign since the ceasefire began. As Crystal Gomansing reports from London, attacks continued for 7 hours in and around the Strait of Hormuz.
Now that the blockade is back on, they're hoping this changes the calculus a little bit.
Blocking the movement of Iranian ships and those carrying its oil cuts off Iran's revenue streams, says Kirsten Fontenrose, former senior director for the Gulf at the U.S. National Security Council in Donald Trump's first administration.
Can't turn the lights on at the ministries, can't pay their security services. We're looking for that kind of squeeze.
The fight for leverage has resulted in attacks by Iran on vessels in the Strait of Hormuz, prolonging the uncertainty in the global shipping industry, followed by American strikes on Iran, leading to Iran targeting U.S. bases in neighboring Persian Gulf states.
We wanted to believe that a ceasefire is going to hold.
Hossam Zaki, former Secretary General of the League of Arab States, says there's no predicting what'll come next. He hopes the mediators who succeeded in getting Iran and the U.S. to sign the Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding can restore calm.
We're going to knock out all their power plants. We're going to knock out all their bridges unless they get to the table and negotiate.
An old threat revived by President Trump in an interview yesterday on Fox News. Kirsten Fontenrose, however, points out neither the U.S. nor Iran has officially pulled out of the MOU. Crystal Gomansing, CBC News, London.
Acting U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche will face tough questions today. His Senate confirmation to fill the role officially begins in Washington. U.S. President Donald Trump's former personal attorney has been accused of conflicts of interest and mishandling key files. Willie Lowry has more from Washington.
This is by no means a slam dunk for Todd Blanche. Members of the Senate Judiciary Committee want to dig into his close ties with President Donald Trump. He served as Trump's personal defense lawyer before taking the #2 job at the Justice Department. Democrats are likely going to press Blanche on his handling of the indictment of former FBI Director James Comey, as well as his handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files and their release. Blanche was in charge of the release of those files. In some instances, personal information of Epstein survivors was accidentally released. The Judiciary Committee is made up of 22 senators, 12 Republicans, and 10 Democrats, so Blanche cannot afford to lose any Republican support if he hopes to make it to a wider Senate vote. Willie Lowry, CBC News, Washington.
A U.S. professor is accusing his students of using artificial intelligence to cheat. The Brown University professor says it could point to a much larger problem, and he says he has proof. And as Magda Gabrisalasa tells us, some Canadian academics say they're not surprised.
There's much about Brown for which we are incredibly proud.
That's Brown University's online welcome video. But with allegations of student fraud linked to AI, school pride is likely taking a hit. Roberto Serrano, a professor of economics, believes that most of his first-year students in one course cheated. Serrano assigned a take-home midterm exam for the first time in the aftermath of a fatal school shooting. The results shocked him. Students scored an average 96%, with evidence suggesting AI use. He changed the final to an in-person exam. A wave of students dropped out. The rest scored an average 48%.
I think it's concerning.
Alison Miller is not surprised. The Toronto Metropolitan University Academic Integrity Office Director says she's seeing a rise in academic misconduct and repeat offenders.
When you keep repeating the behavior, it's suspension, which leads to people losing student visas, people losing job offers.
While Brown University is reportedly reviewing the allegations, Rahul Kumar, an assistant professor at Brock, says research shows more students are using AI to do their work. He says in-person tests, oral exams, and debates can help address the issue. But institutions need to do more, like cap class sizes and provide professors with instructional support.
They still need to develop student capacity to work responsibly and ethically with AI.
Because he says employers will demand it. Magda Gabrisalasa, CBC News, Toronto.
The number of confirmed Ebola cases in the Democratic Republic of Congo is going up. More than 2,000 cases have been confirmed. That includes more than 750 deaths. It's been 2 months since the outbreak began, and it continues to spread. The World Health Organization is launching the first clinical trial of an antiviral drug to treat this rare strain of Ebola. Currently, there are no approved vaccines or treatments for this particular strain. A CBC News investigation reveals gun license applications have surged in the Greater Toronto Area. Data from the RCMP shows a 49% jump in the GTA. That includes Toronto and Hamilton over the last decade. Angelina King looks at what's behind the rise.
Jim Lee recently got his gun license because he heard a shooting range was opening near his home in Mississauga, west of Toronto. It's now part of his retirement routine.
I've met several people in here. We come in at almost the same time.
Last year, the RCMP received more than 15,000 gun license applications in the Greater Toronto Hamilton area, a 49% increase compared to 2016. In Peel region, where Lee lives, that number is 110%. Lee is a member at Downrange Shooting Sports. Co-owner Chris Garofalo says he has no idea why his region has seen that jump, but says he's surprised with his membership.
We are seeing the most diverse people coming in to shoot, whether they're doctors or retirees, mothers and fathers with kids.
Range owners and safety instructors say it's unclear exactly what's behind the rise. Course instructors say they aren't seeing people getting their license for personal safety, noting there are no laws allowing people to get firearms for that reason. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
Canadian home sales inched up between May and June, but not by as much as expected. The CBC's Nisha Patel breaks down the latest data from the Canadian Real Estate Association.
Sales are well below long-term trends.
It's no secret that many housing markets in Canada have cooled. Sean Cathcart, senior economist at the Canadian Real Estate Association, says inflation and a shaky trade outlook are keeping potential home buyers on the sidelines.
They all say they still want to be homeowners. They're just waiting for the reduction in uncertainty.
There are big regional disparities. Home sales picked up in the Greater Toronto Area while tumbling in Montreal. Overall sales in June rose just about 1% compared to the same time a year ago. The benchmark home price fell about 3.5% year over year to $657,000. With the first half of the year slower than expected, CREA revised its national sales forecast down slightly for 2026.
The only market that's still in full-on seller's market mode is Newfoundland and Labrador, but we don't expect that to last much longer.
Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
The Winter Olympics may be 4 years away, but we know the Games will include two new sports, and one of them is synchronized skating. It's part of the International Olympic Committee's effort to achieve gender parity. And as Jay Turnbull tells us, it could mean more medals for Canada.
It's 7 a.m. inside this chilly Montreal arena. A couple of dozen figure skaters break into groups of 4 and glide effortlessly along the ice in perfect unison. The members of this synchronized skating team, Les Suprêmes, are among the world's best, having represented Canada in several world championships. Soon, the stage will get even bigger. Some of them will be Olympians. Calgary's Sadie Nicholson hopes to be among them.
I was so excited. I woke up to like a billion texts from my friends, my family, Instagram. Everyone's so excited.
It would be a big deal for these women.
Well, it's the most beautiful sport in the world. First of all,
Marilyn Langlois is the team's coach. She's had her heart broken in the past when she thought the sport would debut in the Olympics. Now that it's finally going to happen, I had an important question. So what are Canada's chances in 2030 to come home with a medal?
I think they're pretty big. We've been like winning 4 world championships in 5 years, so I think we showcase that we're very, very strong right now.
In 2030, for the first time in history, there will be more women than men competing for medals at a Winter Games.
Yeah, bravo.
These Canadian women see it as a golden opportunity. Jay Turnbull, CBC News, Montreal.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime at cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in for Marcy Marcusa this morning. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. 89.3 FM, 990 AM on our YouTube live stream or anywhere on the CBC News app. Thanks for joining us this morning. Coming up on the show, some Winnipeg senior care homes continue to deal with broken air conditioning during this extreme heat. Coming up, we'll speak with an advocate about why heat can be harmful, especially harmful to senior citizens. Also, continuing on the heat, there may be laws on keeping renters warm in the winter, but so far there's no legislation limiting temperatures in Winnipeg rental units in the summertime. We'll learn about heatwave bylaws in Toronto and how they're doing it there. And a human becoming infected with rabies is extremely rare in Canada, but it can happen. We'll find out why the Canadian Medical Association Journal is writing about a tragic case involving an 11-year-old boy. Those stories and more coming up on Information Radio, but first, it's time for news headlines with CBC's Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, the family of a Winnipeg man killed by police on Monday says he was kind and lived with mental health issues. Manitoba's police watchdog says the 42-year-old was shot by an officer outside a home in Lindenwoods. Police say they got a call, 911 call, from a man reporting a family dispute. We're going to hear from the victim's sister-in-law, who says the man who died may have been in crisis. And a Steinbach wheelchair rugby court is providing a community for disabled athletes. We're going to take you to a free wheelchair rugby event that was hosted by the Manitoba Wheelchair Sport Association. That's coming up in our next local news at 7:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. Well, let's say hello and good morning to the rest of the team here on Information Radio. Darren Morash is our YouTube live stream producer. Abby Adiemi is our technical producer, also here with a look at the forecast. A bit of relief from the heat today.
A bit of relief. Yesterday, this time, we were seeing lots of sunshine across the regions, but today we have more like a sharp contrast. We're seeing cooler temperatures. We're seeing cloudy southern regions, and of course, the north still battling with heat and poor air quality due to the smoke present in the region. Here in Winnipeg, it's still cloudy outside, 22 degrees. We will feel sticky peaky as we get to a humid high of 25 later, with a humidex around 27 degrees. And for the southern part of the province, we're already tracking rain in the Dauphin and the Brandon area at this time, and it's just sweeping towards this region. We'll see highs around 25, 27, but up north, we are looking at smoky conditions and highs in the 31 today, hence that heat warning still present there. Winnipeg right now, we're looking at temperatures around 22 right now, aiming for 25 later.
All right, thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
And hello and good morning to Corey Funk, our show director, keeping an eye on the commute.
Yeah, you know what's funny actually? Like, we don't have air conditioning, and
right.
I think 2 days ago, our main floor was like 33 degrees.
Oh, yuck.
And then yesterday, I looked, it was 27 degrees, and it felt like chill.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, only 27. It's funny.
Do you know what it was this morning?
Actually, I didn't look this morning, but I think it was like low 20s in the house. But it was like, it's funny how like a month ago, 27 would have been like stifling.
Right.
Now you're like, oh, it's chill. Yeah.
What a summer it's been.
What a summer it's been. As for the commute, quiet overall. Haven't heard of any major issues out there. Of course, still some closed highways in the Parklands region. So check Manitoba 511 if you're driving around there. But if you see anything else going on, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
Under the city's livability bylaw, Winnipeg landlords must keep rental units at 21 degrees in the winter. But there are no such laws for extreme heat in the summer. Stephen Hodges is a housing coordinator with the West Broadway Community Organization. He spoke with CBC's Cameron McLean about how people have been dealing with the recent heat wave.
So in West Broadway, almost everybody's a renter. It's a 93% rental neighborhood, and almost everybody's living in older apartment buildings that don't really have HVAC systems. So it's a common concern that residents in West Broadway are having. People are obviously trying to buy AC units, which for some people is prohibitive. Like some people can't afford AC units in this neighborhood.
That was Stephen Hodges, a housing coordinator with the West Broadway Community Organization. Mayor Scott Gillingham says a bylaw establishing a maximum indoor temperature is worth considering. Winnipeg City Council recently discussed requiring developers to include air conditioning in new rental units. The issue surrounding rental units in the heat has also been raised in provinces like Ontario. The City of Toronto now has a plan in place to keep residents safer. As of June 1st, RentSafe TO has regulations mandating apartment buildings to provide designated indoor amenity space at or below 26 degrees. And last month, Toronto City Council greenlit a plan to draft and present a new bylaw by 2027 that would make landlords responsible for keeping a maximum temperature of 26 degrees inside their rental units. Lee Webb joined me yesterday for more information on this. He's the Director of Client Services at the Canadian Centre for Housing Rights.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So can you tell us more about the new rules that are in place and explain what RentSafe TO is exactly?
Sure. So RentSafe TO is an inspection program that the City of Toronto has that covers buildings that are at least 3 stories tall with at least 10 units. They have a pretty broad mandate to ensure that units are being kept up to a good state of repair. And then in terms of the changes that are being made, so as of June 1st, apartment buildings that have kind of common amenity spaces have to be able to keep those spaces at 26 degrees and provide access to their tenants during the hottest parts of the day.
What are we talking about when we talk about amenity spaces?
So these aren't just any common spaces like hallways or laundry rooms. These are kind of spaces that are set aside for use by the residents. So you might think of a party room in an apartment or condo that would normally be bookable by the residents for a particular day or time. That type of space. It could maybe also include something like a gym or other recreational facility.
What happens if an apartment building doesn't have any of these shared accessible spaces?
Landlords aren't required to construct new ones. In that case, the landlord is required to provide direction as to where the closest cooled area is, but otherwise don't have to change their practices at this point.
Okay. When was this bylaw, or I should say, why was this bylaw introduced in the first place?
I think that we all know that climate change is becoming a greater and greater concern. CBC was reporting a little while ago that the heat waves in Europe were involved in potentially many thousands of deaths, particularly among seniors. So the need to keep ourselves cool is becoming greater and greater. At the same time, you have the City of Toronto doing this. The province a couple of years ago passed Bill 97, which has recently come into force, which allows tenants to install their own air conditioners given certain if certain conditions are met. And so I think it's just a recognition that we're in a warming world and trying to cope with that as best we can.
We know that not every province has rules like this in place. Is this something that you think Manitoba and other jurisdictions should follow?
I think that all jurisdictions should make sure that they have rules in place that allow tenants to have a reasonable standard of living and quality of life in their homes. So if that means that they need to have rules saying that heat gets limited to a livable amount, and I know some people would say 26 is even a little bit warm, but at least it's something that's safe and tolerable, then I think that that's important for them to do.
Do you think that anything could be, or do you see anything that could be added to the current rules and regulations that would make things even better for folks in Ontario?
From a kind of amenity perspective or a temperature perspective, it's hard to say. I think that there are trade-offs with a lot of these things. Both Manitoba and Ontario have above guideline rent increases, and so some of these changes that are being proposed in terms of implementing the requirement to have air conditioning throughout a building, those could be very costly, and so I think that there's a trade-off there. But I think that, what I was saying before, fundamentally landlords have so much control over the conditions that a tenant lives in, and they should be willing and able to create a workable, livable space for their tenants.
You mentioned cost there. Is there any worry that if landlords become responsible for maintaining that temperature, that they could pass those costs on to tenants and raise rents potentially?
It's possible, yeah. So in Ontario, the above guideline rent increase regime program would likely allow landlords to raise rents in many cases if they had to do big capital investments to install air conditioners. My understanding about Manitoba is that it's similar and that there's advocacy groups in the province looking for tighter rules to make sure that tenants aren't being unduly pressured and priced out of their units. I think that there are things that the government can do to offset that. Maybe that's taking another look at above guideline rent increase rules, or it could be providing rebates to landlords who are providing cooling and kind of taking care of their tenants in that way.
Do you expect this conversation to become more frequent in other provinces as we continue dealing with just above normal temperatures in the summertime?
I think so. You're going to not see summers getting cooler over a long period of time, most likely. The trend line is up. And so I think that you're likely to see that as one or two provinces, as Ontario or Toronto implements rules, other provinces will look to Ontario to see whether or not they should implement similar rules. And particularly in areas where you do see very hot summers, I think that this will become a more pointed conversation.
Lee, really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lee Webb is the Director of Client Services at the Canadian Centre for Housing Rights in Toronto. CBC has reached out to the Manitoba government for comment on this story, but it declined to comment, citing the current blackout in effect from this month's by-election. But you can find more on this story on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Of my bed. Some things I'm quick to tend to, others overwhelm me. Yeah. All often therapized, then intellectualized. Why there's something inside that makes me wanna hate myself. My need for validation, self-asphyxiation of my medication. Oh, and then an everyday sedation. My sexual frustration. Service stations to the novelty award. I get people paid, play video games, then take you to the hamster living in my brain. On the run, clown for everyone, harder than the sun, no ceiling to the woman that I would be glad to never make. I get people paid, play video games, yeah. Take you to the hamster living in my brain. Having fun, clown for everyone, harder than the sun, no ceiling to the woman that I would be
Winnipeg's very own Begonia with Hotter Than the Sun. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Well, time to talk sports news with CBC's Scott Regehr. Good morning.
Hey, Chloe.
To today's World Cup semifinal in a moment, but first, your thoughts on Spain's win over France.
It was a bit of a yawner, I have to say, Chloe. Tough match to watch. Spain got a goal early on a penalty kick, and from there they just used their superior passing skills to keep the ball away from the French for most of the remainder of the match. Kylian Mbappe and company, they looked helpless, Chloe, in trying to penetrate a Spanish defense that's given up just one measly goal this entire tournament. Now, Spain's also a country, Chloe, that back home has been battling some of the worst wildfires in its history. And that was on Coach Luis de la Fuente's mind after the match.
To be the architects of joy for a nation out on the streets is a source of great pride for us. I must emphasize that to see a country united and committed to a common cause, we must enjoy it. There's no greater happiness than seeing someone happy, and that's what motivates us. And what I want to say to them is, keep cheering us on. Keep pushing us. We need that encouragement because what lies ahead is even tougher.
Well, what lies ahead is the final, a chance for Spain to claim just its second ever World Cup and a chance, Chloe, to set a new international record for games played without getting beaten. A victory Sunday would be La Roja's 38th straight contest without tasting defeat, a span of close to 2.5 years. That is estupendo.
I like that.
And fantastic.
And fantastic.
Both those things.
For sure. And we're going to know who Spain plays in the final later today. What are you expecting in the semifinal between Argentina and England?
Feistiness and probably multiple yellow cards, Chloe. These are nations with more than their share of history. Maradona's Hand of God goal back in '86, Beckham's red card in '98, and Beckham's winner on a penalty kick in 2002. Each of those World Cup matches resulted in one or the other getting eliminated, and they were all drama-filled in part because of what predated them.
In our relations with Argentina, that country's armed forces attacked the Falkland Islands and established military control of the islands.
Margaret Thatcher back in 1982 after Argentina invaded the British-occupied Falkland Islands. Though it was never declared a war, Chloe, and Argentina eventually surrendered the islands back, the conflict resulted in hundreds of lives lost on either side. It is political history Argentine head coach Lionel Scaloni maintains should have no bearing today.
I cannot mix things up, especially out of respect for what happened so many years ago. It was a very sad era of our history, and we cannot do much about it. That is the reality. And it is a soccer match, that's it. In this era we live in, where things are happening in other parts of the world and we criticize that there are wars, am I going to say that this is more than a soccer match? It seems like madness to me.
One way or another, Chloe, the countries involved today want desperately to prevail. Argentina has a chance to go through to the final and defend its World Cup title, while England has a chance to make it through to the championship match for the first time since 1966.
And what is England saying ahead of the match?
Well, the same sorts of things, that it is just a soccer game. England coach Thomas Tuchel told reporters, Chloe, he's been dealing with the pressure by riding his bicycle around a parking lot while eating an ice cream cone. to connect him with his inner child.
What?
Someone pointed out to Tuchel that Argentina is going to wear its all navy blue uniforms for today's match. Those are the same colors they wore in beating England in both 86 and 98.
I would have done the same. I was not aware of that. I have my routines, and you can call it superstitious or being superstitious or routines. I will not tell you, because another superstition is that if I tell you, it will not work. So I can't. But of course, we have routines that keep you grounded and calm through the day. That will not change.
All right. So for those wondering whether England will wear red today, Chloe, which is the color they wore when they beat Argentina in 2002, not to mention the color they wore when they won that lone World Cup in 66, England will not wear red today. They will wear white instead. And it's not as though they had a choice. It's FIFA, not the individual countries, that determine what colors are to be worn. Regardless, my guess today is this goes not only to extra time, but to penalty kicks, where either Harry Kane or Lionel Messi makes the difference. And Messi, by the way, despite an incredible and incredibly long career, he's never faced England before. So this should be fun. 2:00 kickoff Central Time.
Scott, I kind of want to now ride my bicycle around a parking lot and eat an ice cream cone. It actually sounds quite fun now that I think about it.
You got to wear a helmet for that.
I will.
That's multitasking. It wouldn't be good for me. You might have better luck.
All right. Thanks, Scott.
See ya.
That is Scott Regehr with your CBC Sports News. It's now time for your CBC Local News with CBC's Heather Wells.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 7:30. It's 22 degrees. We are at the middle of July, and our temperature today is actually seasonal, a high of 25. Cloudy throughout, with a chance of showers increasing by this evening. The family of a Winnipeg man killed by police Monday night in Lindenwood says they are in shock. Manitoba's police watchdog says a 42-year-old man was shot by an officer after getting 2 911 calls from his brother. The caller told police the man had locked him out of their house and was behaving erratically, threatening to damage property. Erica Smith says the man who died was her brother-in-law, who had been living with one of his brothers in their mother's home while she was away. Smith says he was kind and lived with mental health issues. She thinks police could have handled the incident better.
I think everyone's just in shock right now. They haven't had time to grieve yet. It's just too soon. So everyone's just kind of upset and just trying to keep busy.
Winnipeg police say none of the officers involved had body-worn cameras. A different officer who arrived later did have the device, and police say that footage will be handed over to Manitoba's police watchdog as they continue to investigate. A group of West End organizations says they are pleased with the recent crackdown on open drug use in Winnipeg. In an open letter, they praise police for their work tackling open drug use and violent crime. West End Biz was one of the groups named on the letter. Executive Director Joe Cornelson says the need for action was pressing.
Our priority is related to violence. We're not against solving root causes. We're not against addressing addictions. I mean, that would kind of obviously, we would like to see addictions be addressed, but the level of violence that we were experiencing was urgent, and it called for urgent action.
Among other groups listed on this letter are Lions Manor, Winnipeg School Division, West Broadway Youth Outreach, and Just Like New to You Thrift Shop. The 10-day police crackdown ended July 3rd. Former Dauphin MP Inky Mark says he is sorry he broke the law, but contends he's no weapons trafficker. The 78-year-old says what police seized from his home this week was 50 years' worth of collecting. Mark says he transferred ownership of 3 guns to another person, which police say is illegal. He admits that was stupid.
They just want to make it look like I'm a big-time criminal. Plus, they wrecked my safe. They took $300,000 out of there, which was proceeds from my cottage sale and properties I had in town here.
Mark says he spent 2 days in jail. He adds officers also took 3 World War Browning machine guns and several short barrel guns, which are now banned. He is due back in court next month. Some Winnipeg housing advocates and tenants want governments to regulate how hot buildings can get. After Winnipeg's recent heat wave, there are calls for the city to adopt protections for renters. Other cities like Toronto have proposed bylaws setting a maximum indoor temperature of 26. But the Professional Property Managers Association of Manitoba says paying for upgrades could be difficult. Avram Sharak is the association president.
Theoretically, philosophically, morally, 100% on side. It's not cheap. It's a few $1,000s per suite, and we're happy to do it as long as it doesn't end up completely putting us out of business by doing improvements.
The association says government subsidies or other financial supports would be needed to help landlords install air conditioning in older buildings. You can hear more on this story coming up right here on Information Radio. Well, now that Manitoba Hydro has set a new record for electricity consumption this summer, the provincial power utility has to demonstrate what it's doing to keep the air conditioning on for decades to come. That now from CBC's Bartley Kivas.
I've not been dealing with the heat.
Joyce German has spent Winnipeg's heat wave staying with friends.
At my house, there's no AC, so I've just kind of been struggling right now.
It's been so hot in Winnipeg, Manitoba Hydro set a new summer electricity use record on Monday. Hydro says it needs to generate more power. It has a multi-billion-dollar plan to do this by building 3 new natural gas turbines in Brandon and buying electricity from Indigenous-owned wind farms. At the end of the month, Hydro will come before the provincial energy regulator to present this plan. Scott Powell speaks for the Crown Corporation.
We believe the plan we've put forward to the PUB will meet our needs as a utility and our ability to ensure we have that ability to continue to supply our customers.
Critics say Hydro hasn't demonstrated the need for more power. 6 weeks of hearings begin July 27th. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Yesterday, we reported the owner of a cottage that burned down during the Lynn Lake forest fire and 7 people who fled the fire have sued mining company Alamos Gold. In fact, the lawsuit was filed by an insurance company involved with the people named in the lawsuit. Wheelchair rugby is helping a 33-year-old woman rediscover her athletic spirit. Brianna Sewald's life changed after a car crash left her in a wheelchair at the age of 27.
I was a very active person, and it was hard. It was hard to lose that. And so I got it back here for just a little bit, and it's like it reminded me of who I was before, and I could still have that. So it was nice.
The Manitoba Wheelchair Sport Association put on a free tryout event for the sport. It now hopes to start a team in Steinbach this fall. Sewald says she's all in and now has her eyes set on the national women's team. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day. Just head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
And Heather, the photos of that event in Steinbach on our website are just fantastic. So highly recommend folks go read that article.
For sure, absolutely. What a great thing to do, to get people involved again when they thought that part of their life might not continue.
Heather, do you know the nickname for wheelchair rugby?
I do not.
Murder ball.
Say that again.
Murder ball.
Oh my goodness.
Because it's just that intense. Yeah, there's a lot of contact. If you've seen it before, you kind of understand why it has that nickname.
Okay. So, go for it.
Go for it if that's your thing. Okay, thank you, Heather.
Thanks.
That's CBC's Heather Wells. I'm Chloe Friesen. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. I am joined by the lovely team in the control room, including Abby Adiemi, who's here with an update on the forecast.
Yeah, the southern part of the province will definitely be damp today. We're seeing cloudy conditions. Some regions already seen the rain start. We're seeing it already sweep towards the Winnipeg area. While up north, we still have those smoke and heat warnings in place, reducing visibility, and of course, temperatures really soaring into the 30s for the northern parts of the province. For the Red River Valley region, Winnipeg is at 22 at this time. It's going to feel sticky with the humid conditions that will be coming with that. Temperatures climb to 25 today, but the humidex will be close to 28. There's a good chance of daytime showers, also followed by a wet overnight period, so prepare for that. Across the southern regions, similar conditions we're seeing in the Pembina Valley region, more than cloudy at this time, 19 degrees, climbing to a humid high of 25. Also a good chance of rain in the forecast. We'll look at the Westman region. Now, Brandon is seeing light rain at 18 degrees, and we will see this on and off for most of the day with highs around 22. Then in the Parkland region, Dauphin, you are seeing light rain, also 19 degrees. You warm to 26 later. Gimli is at 19, also this time aiming for a high of 27. 7. Then we cross into the central parts of the province where we have that widespread smoke continuing to impact visibility around the Flin Flon nearby regions. We're seeing temperatures around 17 at this time before soaring to a smoky high of 30. For the north, around the Norway House area, we also have a smoke blanket in the area. 15 degrees at this time, heading to a hot high of 30 degrees. Then around Thompson and Lynn Lake, skies kind of clear for this time, but we'll see partly cloudy skies sweeping later with temperatures hovering between 14 and 15, and we'll see smoke and heat warnings also present there. Aiming for a high of 29, close to 30 degrees, and then around the Tudula Lake region, sunny conditions still continue there. 14 at this time, aiming for a high of 23. Churchill is cooler. We're seeing 11 degrees there, just a high of 17 today. So it's more like the south will see cooler conditions today, but it's just the showers and the risk of thunderstorms that we need to look out for, while the north remains hot and smoky. Winnipeg, 22 right now.
All right. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
Also joining me is show director Corey Funk. Corey,
Yes.
how's it going?
Quiet commute overall. Haven't heard of any major issues out there yet, but if you do see something, if you're walking your bike and you're driving, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
Thank you very much, Corey.
Thank you.
Well, we are returning to our contest that we announced yesterday. It is day 2 of the Blueberry Jam contest. And Blueberry Jam, if you've never heard of it, is Northern Manitoba's largest music festival. Set against Flin Flon's beautiful boreal landscape, this free 3-day family-friendly gathering brings together local and visiting performers for continuous live music across 2 unique venues. It's all happening August 7th, 8th, and 9th, and CBC is a proud sponsor, and we want to send you there. We have a round-trip flight from Winnipeg to Flin Flon and a hotel stay to give away to you and your guest. Entering is simple. We're going to share a riddle about a public art piece in downtown Winnipeg. And if you know the answer, you can email win@cbc.ca or call our listener line at 204-788-3205. Each correct answer is an entry, and a draw will take place Friday, July 17th. You and your guest have to be 18 or over. Let's head back to yesterday's clue. The clue was, this tribute to one of Winnipeg's most violent days is a bloody way to start your Saturday. The answer is Bloody Saturday statue in front of the Pantages Playhouse. Here is today's clue. Some people believe the glass is half full. Others believe it's half empty. Once again, today's clue is, some people believe the glass is half full. Others believe it's half empty. Once again, if you know the answer, you can email win@cbc.ca. That's win@cbc.ca. Or call the listener line 204-788-3205. 204-788-3205. Each correct answer is an entry, and a draw will take place Friday, July 17th. You and your guest have to be 18 or over.
No purchase necessary. Open to Manitoba residents 18 and older. Contest closes July 16th, 2026 at 8:30 a.m. Central. Grand prize is a trip for 2 to Flin Flon valued at approximately $2,000. Odds of winning depend on total eligible entries. Math skill testing question required. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for full contest rules and details.
Time is 7:42. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. I'm Chloe Friesen. Well, coming up next, it's a heartbreaking story, but one that carries an important warning. Back in 2024, doctors in Ontario struggled to understand why an 11-year-old boy suddenly became sick with a variety of complex symptoms. It all started with a chance encounter with a bat. Now the Canadian Medical Association Journal has published a detailed case report, and doctors are using this incredibly rare tragedy to raise awareness about how we can stay safe. To help us understand what happened and what we all need to know about rabies, we're joined by our medical contributor, Dr. Raj Bhardwaj. Good morning.
Good morning, Chloe.
So, Dr. Bhardwaj, earlier this month we spoke with a local bat expert, Craig Willis, about this case, but can you tell us more about what happened from a medical standpoint?
Yeah, for sure. So the case was written up in the Canadian Medical Association Journal, partly because the family gave consent to share the case in the hopes of increasing awareness about the condition. And public health experts want people to be aware of the risk of rabies from bats. So basically, 2024, an 11-year-old wakes up with a bat nuzzled up on his face when the family's visiting a cottage in northern Ontario. So he shoos it away. Dad caught the bat in a cooking pot, released it outside. And then the parents checked the boy, scratches, bites, anything. Didn't find anything. So they thought, okay, end of it. About 3 weeks go by, and then the boy develops tingling and eventually swelling and numbness to his face. So they went to get checked out. But it sounds like they either didn't mention the bat exposure from a few weeks back or that it didn't trigger the doctor to consider rabies on the list of possibilities. And to be fair, rabies is super rare. Most doctors will not encounter a case in their entire career. So instead, this boy is diagnosed with Bell's palsy, which is a relatively common problem with the facial nerve. He's prescribed an antiviral medicine, and, it's all good. But within a few days, he got worse. Trouble swallowing, fevers, confusion, so he goes to hospital. Then a more detailed medical history revealed that bat exposure from a few weeks prior, and tests were sent off and confirmed that, yeah, this was indeed rabies. Now, unfortunately, things continued to get worse. He eventually had to be put on life support, and then 17 days after he was admitted to hospital, his family and doctors decided to take him off life support, and he died peacefully with his family at his bedside. But it's heartbreaking.
What exactly is rabies?
So rabies is an infection of the nerves and brain, and it's caused by a virus. And that virus is transmitted through bites or scratches from a mammal that has rabies. So it gets into your body from the animal's saliva. The virus travels, through the skin to your nerves, from the nerves up to the brain. And this is a very rare thing. There have only been 28 cases of rabies in humans in Canada in the last 102 years. And this patient's case was the first case of locally acquired rabies in Ontario since 1967. Now, most cases of rabies in Canada are related to exposure to bats. But other wild animals can carry and transmit rabies infections. So think other mammals. So foxes, coyotes, skunks, raccoons, dogs, cats. Not so much rodents like mice and rats, or squirrels or rabbits. They're very much less likely to carry the rabies virus. But rabies also happens to have the highest case fatality rate of any human infectious disease. So by the time a person has symptoms, it's almost always deadly.
Are there treatments for rabies?
Yeah, so that's the good thing. There are treatments, but we have to get the treatments before the symptoms start. So the problem is that once a person has symptoms, there's very little that can treat it effectively. So what we sort of think about with the treatment is what's called post-exposure prophylaxis. So post-exposure treatment, we want to start the treatment after the exposure before the symptoms start to show up. And for that, we use a combination of two things. So the first is called RIG, rabies immune globulin. So basically that is antibodies to rabies. And we inject those in so that the antibodies can fight the rabies in your system right away. But the RIG antibodies only last for a few weeks. So the second part of the post-exposure treatment is rabies vaccine. So that's a series of usually 4 shots over a couple of weeks that allows your own immune system to develop rabies antibodies itself. And then it continues to fight and clean up any virus that might have gotten into you. But you can't just go to any doctor and get this treatment. It has to be vetted by infectious disease or public health specialists, because partly it's expensive, partly there's limited supply, and there's potential side effects as well, like reactions to the RIG or to the vaccine.
If rabies is almost always fatal, why isn't rabies vaccine part of our routine immunizations?
That is a good question. And there are 3 main answers to that. So first of all, if you're exposed to rabies, it's usually pretty clear that you're exposed. It's not like measles where you could, walk through a room and be exposed and you don't even know it. And rabies is a pretty slow moving infection. So there's almost always time to get treatment started before symptoms start. Second, rabies is super rare. And vaccines, like all medicines, have small risks to them. So if you consider the risk of the rabies vaccine or the RIG, in a person who has been exposed or potentially exposed to rabies, then the risks are minuscule compared to the benefit. But the risk-benefit flips if we try to immunize millions of people to try to prevent a few cases of rabies each decade. The third reason is that the vaccine doesn't give you forever immunity. That immunity lasts for about 2 to 3 years, usually longer. But even if you've been vaccinated and you have a potential rabies exposure, you should still seek medical care because you still need some sort of treatment usually.
What should people do if they think they might have been exposed to an animal with rabies?
So first of all, don't panic. Take care of yourself. So remove any clothing that might have been contaminated by the animal's saliva. Wash the wound. And if there is no wound, like in this case, there were no wounds, still wash the skin. Soap and water for at least 15 minutes. So washing and scrubbing with soap and water is very effective at lowering the amount of virus on the skin, in the wound. That lowers your risk. You can also disinfect with hand sanitizer or alcohol afterwards if you want, but really soap and water for at least 15 minutes is best. Second thing, get some medical attention. Now that doesn't always mean going to the ER. It could simply mean calling 811, talking to a nurse about the potential exposure. They have, rabies exposure protocols and questions that they can go through with you. Often they can even call the public health specialist for an expert opinion. That can save you a trip to the ER, or it can direct you to the right place to get the rabies post-exposure treatment, since it's usually only kept in stock at certain hospitals for logistical reasons. For bonus points, and only if it's safe to do so, you could try to confine the wild animal or bat so that it can be tested for rabies by vets. So now don't get yourself exposed while doing that though. So no exposed skin when you're doing this, right? So that might be as simple as, I had a patient where there was a bat in the bedroom. The bat sort of crawled into the closet. I'll just close the closet doors. Done. Bat is confined, right? So it might be as simple as closing the windows, closing the doors to the room the bat was in. Or if it's just lying there, throw a towel on it, put a box on it so that it doesn't crawl away or fly away, something like that. But don't get yourself exposed while trying to do that.
Dr. Bardwaj, is the situation any different outside of Canada?
Yeah, it really is. So in Canada, in pretty much all high-income countries, we've pretty much eradicated rabies in domestic pets. But that's totally different when you're in low-income countries. Around the world, over 99% of rabies cases are due to dog bites or dog scratches, stray or feral dogs. So again, if you're outside Canada, again, don't panic, wash up, get medical advice as soon as possible. Sometimes that means calling Canada and getting Canadian medical advice.
Dr. Bardwaj, really appreciate it. Thank you.
My pleasure.
That's House Dr. Raj Bardwaj. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1, and continuing on a story we brought to you yesterday. That's when we spoke with Sherry Shindruck. Her elderly father is struggling without AC at Middle Church Personal Care Home in West St. Paul. She said they've been having AC air conditioning issues since last week, and employees have been trying to keep residents cool by moving them to central cooling areas within the care home.
They're trying their best. They're limited on space, but they're trying their best to bring those staff, the members, the residents down. But those residents are struggling. I witnessed a number of them as they're being brought. And I know my dad calls his room his apartment. It's his home. It's his comfort space. And they've brought them down. And there's, I've heard them saying, "Where are you taking me? What are you doing? I want to go back." They don't understand. So the stress that it's putting on these residents, not understanding and why things are the way they are.
As of Monday, there were 3 care homes in the Winnipeg area struggling to stay cool, including Middle Church. I'm joined now by Laura Tamplin-Watts. She's the CEO of CanAge, a national seniors advocacy organization. Good morning.
Good morning.
So we heard a bit from Sherry there, but to your knowledge, why are seniors especially vulnerable to extreme heat?
Think of it this way. Aging literally breaks our internal thermostat. After 65, we lose about 40% of our sweating capacity, And add to that, that 1 in 4 Manitoba seniors take medication that interferes with temperature regulation, blood pressure meds, diuretics, even antidepressants. And what happens is you get a perfect storm brewing in your medicine cabinet. And just to give you a sense of how severe it is, heat kills more Canadians annually than tornadoes, lightning, floods, and hurricanes combined.
What impact does heat have on elders who are living maybe with cognitive disorders such as Alzheimer's or dementia?
Well, 80% of the deaths that we're talking about over 65 are seniors. And of that, people with cognitive impairment like dementia are a large proportion. Part of the reality is you don't feel hot or cold. You actually have a cognitive misstep between your brain and your body about how hot or indeed how cold you are. And what that means is you may not drink or you may not remember that you are hot. You may go out into places where it is hot when you're searching for places that it's cold. And even if you do have things that would help you cool, you might be aging with dementia at home. You might not know, make that mental connection to turn the air conditioner on.
Yesterday when I was speaking to Sherry, something she mentioned was that her father, because it was so hot, he wasn't eating normally. He didn't have an appetite. Why might that be?
When you're hot, you don't want to eat. I think most people know that feeling. But in particular, it actually can short circuit with some of the medications you might be taking for your Alzheimer's or your dementia. And that may be true also for your blood pressure medication. So all these things end up exacerbating issues. For people who have kidney issues or any other type of what I'll call blood sugar-based concerns, it's especially true as you become especially dried out. Your appetite can be impacted, and that means that you're neither drinking nor eating.
Knowing all of this, what's your reaction to hearing that some care homes in Winnipeg have been without air conditioning for days now?
Yeah, every degree over 30 degrees Celsius doubles the risk for someone over 75, and that's especially true in care homes. We know that there have to be cooling centers in care homes, but they are often not in the room of the person that they live in.
Why is it important to have it in the room that the person lives in and knows?
Well, there's two reasons. One, it's where you live. I mean, it's a personal care home. It's your home. So you want to be able to be comfortable and live in your actual room and not get wheeled out or dragged out into a central cooling area, which could be in your cafeteria or your eating area, or sometimes even in the administrative areas. It disrupts the home. It disrupts you. It's like you've literally been taken out of your home and put into a central location. It's confusing. It's upsetting. And there's a lack of privacy.
Laura, what advice do you have folks who are caring for elders, whether they're in care homes or not, in helping them beat the heat?
I mean, obviously, if you can get that person into a cooler place, that's the very best thing to do. But you also have to make sure that they're eating and taking medications. I think about the 2-6-2 rule. Check on vulnerable seniors twice a day. Ensure that they're drinking 6 to 8 glasses of water, and be paying attention to the 2 warning signs: confusion and dizziness. So 2-6-2. And if you're in a personal care home, make sure that you're talking to the administration about what their strategy is, and make sure you keep those people nice and cool when we are getting increasingly hot.
Do you have any tips on hydration in particular?
One of the things I love to do is to take those, if you will, pediatric freezies. If you had kids, you might have been using those if they were unwell. So any of those types of high hydration drinks or any of those frozen hydrations can be great ways to keep people cool. They also have some cubes that you use. If you're a hiker, you may know those hydration cubes. Those are great ways to get hydration, and making sure you're getting electrolytes and enough salts into people so that they don't actually get severely hydrated.
Laura, really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Laura Tamblin-Watts is the CEO of CanAge. It's time now to turn to Heather Wells with news headlines.
Good morning. Well, the family of a Winnipeg man killed by police Monday says he was kind and lived with mental health issues. Manitoba's police watchdog says the 42-year-old was shot by an officer outside a home in Lindenwoods. Police say they got a 911 call from a man reporting a family dispute. The caller saying his brother had locked him out and was behaving erratically. Erica Smith says the man who died was her brother-in-law and may have been in a mental health crisis. Mixed reviews of that 10-day Winnipeg police crackdown on open drug use and trafficking. Some organizations praise the effort, but one outreach worker says it left the streets feeling militarized. I'll be back with more Manitoba News at 8:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
And speaking of that story, coming up after 8 o'clock, some Winnipeg businesses are calling for more initiatives like the recent Winnipeg police crackdown on open drug use. We're going to hear from the West End Biz about what they've been hearing coming up next on Information Radio. World Report is next.
On cue. Hi, I'm Jill Deacon, sitting in for Tom Power. When British conductor Alexander Shelley first took over as music director of the National Arts Centre, he faced a lot of expectations. Now, after 11 years and a long list of career accomplishments, Alexander is stepping down. He'll look back on his time with the NAC.
It has changed me quite fundamentally.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm Pia Chattopadhyay. All around the world, the official Panini FIFA World Cup 2026 stickers are flying off the shelves. What's driving this craze, and why is this such an enduring FIFA tradition? That's coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Iranian forces launched missile and drone attacks against U.S. military facilities in Bahrain, Kuwait, and Qatar. An Iranian Shahed drone explodes after hitting a warehouse in the port town of Al Shuaiba in Kuwait. Washington reinstated a naval blockade on Iran. Last night, in an interview on Fox News, U.S. President Donald Trump threatened further escalation. Trump promised to destroy civilian infrastructure unless Tehran resumes negotiations.
Next week, it gets really bad for them because next week comes the power plants. Next week comes the bridges. We're going to knock out all their power plants. We're going to knock out all their bridges unless they get to the table and negotiate.
Under the 1949 Geneva Conventions, military strikes on civilian infrastructure are forbidden. It is expected to be an intense 2 days for acting U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche. He wants the job, but first, he will be grilled by the Senate Judiciary Committee. U.S. President Donald Trump's former personal attorney has been accused of conflicts of interest and mishandling the Jeffrey Epstein files. The CBC's Willie Lowry joins me now from our Washington bureau. And Willie, what are we expecting today?
This is by no means a slam dunk for Todd Blanche. He may be the acting attorney general, but members of the Senate Judiciary Committee want to dig into his close ties with President Donald Trump. He served as Trump's personal defense lawyer before taking the number 2 job at the Justice Department. Democrats are likely going to press Blanche on his handling of the indictment of former FBI Director James Comey, as well as his handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files and their release. Blanche was in charge of the release of those files. In some instances, personal information of Epstein survivors was accidentally released. At least 2 of the 12 Republicans on the Judiciary Committee have expressed reservation over Blanche's nomination. The Judiciary Committee is made up of 22 senators, 12 Republicans, and 10 Democrats, so Blanche cannot afford to lose any Republican support if he hopes to make it to a wider Senate vote.
You mentioned Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein survivors will be part of tomorrow's testimony. What can you tell us about that?
That's right. At least 8 survivors of sex offender Jeffrey Epstein will attend today's hearings, and then tomorrow, Danny Bensky will appear before the panel. She is one of several Epstein survivors who put out a video ad criticizing Blanche.
Todd Blanche failed us. He failed victims everywhere.
We deserve better.
Our country deserves better.
Vote no on Todd Blanche for Attorney General. Vote no.
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 Vote no on Todd Blanche for Attorney General.
They're criticizing Blanche for releasing their personal information, including, in some instances, nude photos.
Thank you, Willie.
Sure thing.
The CBC's Willie Lowry in Washington. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen finalized a defense deal in Kyiv this morning. It grants Ukraine access to millions of dollars in new military funding. William Denslow has more from Brussels.
Arriving in Ukraine for the 11th time since Russia's full-scale invasion, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen was handed a bouquet of flowers in the colours of the Ukrainian flag. Also delivered today, a new deal between the two sides, officially finalising several defence initiatives. The agreements are aimed at speeding up military procurement, as well as integrate Ukrainian companies with major EU defence systems for the first time. Under this framework, Ukraine gains access to over $400 million in new funding for defence. European Commission spokesperson Balázs Ujvari says the new deals will help Ukraine build the arms it needs.
The goal is to enable Ukraine to get the weapons that it needs on the battlefield. So the objective here is to respond as quickly as possible to the most urgent needs that Ukraine has.
The EU is also hoping to sign off on a 21st round of Russian sanctions. Earlier this week, EU Foreign Policy Chief Kai Kallas said the new measures are to address Russian military escalation.
This is the biggest number of listings we have done so far. It's also reaction to the attacks that Russia has had on the civilians recently.
Here in the Belgian capital, ambassadors are convening again today, where they'll try and reach a consensus on freezing the price cap on Russian oil. For CBC News, I'm William Denslow in Brussels.
The number of confirmed Ebola cases in the Democratic Republic of Congo is up. More than 2,000 cases have been confirmed. That includes more than 750 deaths. It's been 2 months since the outbreak began, and it continues to spread. The World Health Organization is launching the first clinical trial of an antiviral drug to treat this rare strain of Ebola. Currently, there are no approved vaccines or treatments for this particular strain. Adding to the problem and the strain on the local healthcare network, several workers have gone on strike over unpaid wages during the outbreak. A heat wave continues to make its way across central and eastern Canada.
July is traditionally the warmest month in Ontario, so heat is not unexpected. But I think what's been noteworthy is stringing together a number of consecutive days well above normal.
Jeff Colson is with Environment Canada. He says Ontario is feeling it the most of the southern provinces under a yellow heat warning. That means temperatures could feel as high as 45 degrees today. Pockets of Ontario and Quebec are also under air quality warnings due to smoke from wildfires. Right now, Toronto ranks as the most polluted major city in the world when it comes to air quality. It's followed by Dubai and Jerusalem. Parts of the Northwest Territories are dealing with extreme heat and poor air quality. Wildfire smoke continues to linger. Air quality values are pushing into higher risk levels there. Territorial health officials say wearing a mask can make a difference in protecting health. The CBC's Samantha Lee has the latest from Yellowknife.
If you have an N95,
there's a push on to protect yourself from the effects of wildfire smoke. Wear a mask. That's what the Northwest Territories' Chief Public Health Officer, Cami Candola, is recommending.
It's really important that mask is well-fitting, and it is recommended that you use that.
Yellowknife Emergency Room Dr. Courtney Howard agrees. There is no number of emergency room cases linked to wildfire smoke due to data tracking limitations in the Northwest Territories. Howard says any exposure to fine toxic particles in smoke causes inflammation and increases risk of respiratory disease, heart attack, cancer, and premature death.
We don't want our kids to get cancer long term. And so these are decisions we need to make on an everyday basis to protect our health now and into the future.
Yellowknife has been experiencing smoky days recently due to wildfires. We asked some residents what they think about the masking recommendation.
Personally, I don't. And I think it comes down to personal risk tolerance.
I never did, but I have seen people doing it, so yeah.
Would you consider doing it yourself?
Maybe. Maybe if it's too much, then yeah.
Certainly, if it was worse than we're experiencing today, I would consider it for sure.
Territorial officials are also urging people to regularly check air quality health indexes and use air filtration systems. But they say the best way to reduce exposure on smoky days may be the simplest solution of all: stay indoors. Samantha Lee, CBC News, Yellowknife.
Millions of people visit the Maritimes in the summer, and many of them are on the hunt for some fish and chips. But this year, restaurant owners say people will have to pay more. They say the industry has been forced to raise prices. There's less haddock with the federal government cutting fishing quotas. Kayla Hounsel explains.
At Pleasant Street Diner in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, they fry up 1,000 pounds of haddock every week. The white, flaky fish makes up more than half of the diner's total business. And traditionally, it's been the affordable fish. Not anymore. Tommy Faturos owns the diner with his brother. He says their haddock expenses shot up $5,000 a week. It forced them to put everything on their menu up 10%.
It's not for any kind of greed, it's strictly for survival.
In the Maritimes, unless it's stated otherwise, if you're eating fish and chips, you're probably eating haddock. The issue is one of supply and demand. In April, the federal government cut the total allowable catch of haddock by up to 57% in some parts of Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, citing declining stocks. That means fewer fish, but demand remains high. Kayla Hounsel, CBC News, Halifax.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime, cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in for Marcy Marcusa. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. 89.3 FM, 990 AM on our YouTube live stream or anywhere on the CBC News app. Thanks for joining us. Well, coming up on the show, some organizations in the West End are applauding the recent police crackdown on open drug use and say they want more initiatives like this in the future to help reduce crime. We'll hear more coming up on the show. Stay with us. Time now for news headlines with Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, the family of a Winnipeg man killed by police Monday night in Lindenwood says they are in shock. Manitoba's police watchdog says a 42-year-old man was shot by an officer after getting two 911 calls from his brother. The caller saying his brother had locked him out of their house and was behaving erratically. We are going to hear from the sister-in-law who says her brother-in-law was kind and lived with mental health issues. Some Winnipeg housing advocates and tenants want governments to regulate how hot buildings can get after Winnipeg's recent heat wave. The Professional Property Managers Association of Manitoba says it would like to install air conditioning in all of their suites, but without support, it could cause hardship for the owners. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 8:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. Well, hello and good morning to the rest of the team here on Information Radio. Darren Morash is our YouTube live stream producer, and Abby Adiemi is our technical producer, also keeping an eye on the weather forecast for us.
Yeah, still looking at conditions in the north where we have this significant multi-day heat event that continues to impact the region. We're talking about heat warnings in effect for lots of areas in the north, where we're seeing daytime highs close to 31 in that part of the province, and also the smoke continues to impact a lot of regions. Though there's once we get the shift of winds tomorrow in that part of the province, we should be noticing some relief up north. For the Red River Valley region at this time, we're waking up to cloudy conditions. I'm already seeing the wipers go out there. We have this very good chance of showers today as our daytime high climbs close to 25 25 degrees with a humidex around 27. And that's the condition for most of the southern regions. But up north, we're already seeing temperatures climbing close to the 30s for most of the regions. For now, we're seeing 17s and 14s in the northern part of the province. Winnipeg, right now, we are just stuck at 22, aiming for 25 today.
All right. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey Funk, show director, joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning. It's quiet commute overall. Haven't heard of any major issues. But if you're walking, you're biking, you're driving, you see some, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
Winnipeg police ended their 10-day crackdown on open drug use nearly 2 weeks ago. But some community organizations say there needs to be more initiatives like it. On Monday, an open letter signed by several organizations in the Sherbrooke, Maryland community was released, raising the alarm about crime in the neighborhood. The letter cites a sharp rise in daytime robberies, stabbings, fires, break-ins, and threats to people over the past 5 months. The groups are asking police to take urgent action in the area. The letter is supported by the West End Business Improvement Zone, Lions Manor, Winnipeg School Division, West Broadway Youth Outreach, and the Just Like New to You thrift shop. Joe Cornelson is the executive director of the West End Biz, and he joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning, Chloe.
Can you tell us more about what you've been seeing in the Sherbrooke, Maryland community that prompted this open letter?
Yeah, certainly. What you were outlining there was exactly, what we've been hearing from folks on the ground. Every one of the, stakeholders who signed on to that has been hearing this from their, from the folks that they represent and that we are responsible to support. And, we wanted to communicate that message that we appreciated that the police had heard these concerns and they, took some action. And then, as you mentioned, we are interested in seeing ongoing, action to ensure that violence is kept, the violence is zero in our community.
Over these past 5 months, as you were mentioning here, how have businesses been affected?
The big thing that businesses are concerned about is how, violence impacts their employees. They're responsible for their staff. They want to have a safe workplace for folks to go, for folks to come to. Businesses provide, key employment in the neighborhood, and nobody should feel unsafe at work, which is why the businesses are coming to us and why we are supporting this.
Let's move to the 10-day crackdown in open drug use that ended around 2 weeks ago here. What did you hear from businesses in terms of crime rates during that time? Did it make a difference?
So I think all stakeholders who signed on to this message, this open letter, noticed a difference. The issues we were experiencing are urgent in nature, which is why we were calling for an urgent response. We understand that this response is not the end-all be-all. This is a short-term response to an urgent matter. Obviously, all of us support additional, medium and long-term solutions that target, root causes. I know that when I heard from members about their concerns and the appreciation for the police action, pretty much everyone says, but we understand we need to also be addressing the root causes and coming at this from a compassionate lens in the medium and long term.
Is there a call for that as well in this open letter?
In this open letter, we're specifically speaking to the public, or to the enforcement action. The letter does mention that we do want to see, ongoing supports for addressing this issue again with the medium and long term solutions. But in this specific situation, we're just calling for that short term approach and expressing appreciation for what has happened.
The executive director of the West Central Women's Resource Centre, Lori English, was on Up to Speed on Monday and talked about the crackdown. She mentioned that she says this pushed people who use drugs into the shadows so that they were hiding from police and away from help in the event of an overdose. Take a listen.
We knew that a strong police presence would chase people away from social services. And we did, unfortunately, experience a death of one of our community members who had tucked themselves away. and use substances. And by the time we were alerted to the emergency, we were unable to revive them, which is a really unfortunate outcome, but one that was not surprising given the fear that folks were feeling at the time.
Do you share any of the concerns that a heightened police presence may have more negative effects for some community members, even if it does benefit businesses and some residents?
It's ultimately what our objective is to bring the violence level down in all respects. And so the advocacy for us is to address the very immediate safety concerns that residents, seniors, students, employees are feeling. Obviously, we support safety for everyone, and that is our focus.
Have you had any conversations with police about the recent crackdown? What would you like to see from police going forward?
Again, it's our focus is, as I mentioned, it's specifically on the violence and ensuring that we are bringing that level down. We have sent this open letter to police, and we sent it to the city and other decision makers. Addressing, again, illegal behaviors is critical to us, and ensuring that the folks in the area are safe.
Joe, I really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Chloe.
Joe Cornelson is the executive director of West End Biz. Police have yet to release details on how the initiative went since it ended, but in a statement to CBC, a WPS spokesperson said, quote, "As part of our evaluation process, we are reviewing both operational outcomes and community impacts, including valuable feedback provided by stakeholders. No final decisions have been made regarding reporting, future activities, or the release of results. We will provide an update once that process is complete." End quote.
Manitoba is a conversation that never stops. From your first coffee with information radio to the midday pulse of Radio Noon and the drive home with Up to Speed. Don't let your day get in the way of your favorite shows. Just open the CBC News app, tap the local drop-down, and hit play. Bring your community with you. Download the CBC News app and stay live with us.
The time is 8:20. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Canada's ongoing U.S. booze boycott is hitting American producers hard. Every province, except for Alberta and Saskatchewan, is keeping American booze off of its shelves. This is in response to Donald Trump's tariffs. One industry advocacy group calculates the lost export income in 2025 at $357 million for wine alone. That's been hard on California winemakers. So now, some Democratic lawmakers are calling on Canada to drop the boycott tactic. Quebec and Ontario's premiers are saying their provinces will hold the line. California Representative Mike Thompson is one of the Democrats calling for an end to the boycott. He spoke with As It Happens host Neil Cooksall.
I think it's first important to recognize that what the President of the United States did certainly isn't reflective of all Americans. It's certainly not my position. Most members of Congress aren't enamored by his trade policies and most certainly his tariffs. And the state of California couldn't be any further apart from where this president is. And we have such an incredibly wonderful relationship with our friends from Canada. And nowhere is that more apparent than with our wine trade. California makes the best wine in the world. We have long worked to establish a good trade relationship with our Canadian friends. And it's important to us, and it's important to our Canadian neighbors that they have access to this fine wine.
How would it benefit Quebec and the rest of Canada to take your advice on this? Why would the provinces drop a tactic that seems to be getting the attention of Americans?
Well, two reasons remain paramount. One, it's the best wine in the world. And two, it is economically advantageous to Canada as well. You know, the market for American wine in Quebec is worth about $500 million US. So that's an important part of your economy as much as it is an important part of the California economy.
A Nanos poll conducted for CTV back in May suggested 82% of Canadians support these measures. They seem to be on side with this position economically. Do you think you can change their minds? I mean, how do you plan to do that?
Well, I think that the Canadians reflected in that poll are upset with the trade policies of the current United States president. I don't think that's reflective of ill feelings towards California winemakers, California wine, or access to the best wine in the world. And I understand that. No one is more frustrated with the trade policies of this administration as I am. I understand that completely, and I work daily trying to change that. And hopefully we'll be successful. We won't have to ask for specific dispensation from the Canadian government in order for Canadians to enjoy and have access to the best wine in the world. But until that happens, I would hope that we could work together to try and make sure that Canadians are able to access the greatest wine.
That is U.S. Representative Mike Thompson from California's 4th Congressional District. He was speaking with As It Happens host Neil Cooksall.
A sticky soundscape to this city built on rock. The Blueberry Jam Music Festival, a weekend of live music in Flin Flon, is back, and CBC wants to send you there. Listen to Information Radio for clues about public art in Winnipeg. Send in your answer, and you could win a flight for two and hotel to the Blueberry Jam Music Festival, August 7th to 9th, proudly sponsored by CBC. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for details.
And if you missed today's clue, you do have one more chance tomorrow morning. Just after your 7:30 news, we will have that third clue, and you can have yet another chance at winning those flights and hotel stay at the Blueberry Jam main stage. There's so much going on in Flin Flon. And a band who's playing at this festival, is from The Paw. It's a Manitoba arena rock band, Low Budget Rockstar. They are taking the main stage on August 9th. Here they are now with their song, appropriately titled Low Budget Rockstar.
Seem a little crazy, trying to make it in a rock and roll band. I'm living free, it don't faze me, don't explain, 'cause they'll never understand. I'm a low-budget rock star, playing in these crazy bars. I'm the king of Saturday night, with my long hair, skinny jeans, hot chicks watching me. It's gonna be one hell of a night. Na 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 na. Hitting the road with the boys in the band, half a tank of gas in this dirty old van, blasting songs on the radio. Can't slow down till we say rock and roll. I'm a low-budget rock star, playing in these crazy bars. I'm the king of Saturday night, with my long hair, skinny jeans, hot chicks watching me. It's gonna be one hell of a night. Na 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 na. We're on the radio, we're making videos. I hope you catch a show. We're saving rock and roll. Low-budget rock star, playing in these crazy bars. I'm gonna write a hit someday. 'Cause we're playing for the fans, and I think they understand. I'm only one song away. I'm a low-budget rock star, playing in these crazy bars. I'm the king of Saturday night, with
That was Low Budget Rockstar with their song, Low Budget Rockstar. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Well, we are nearing the end of our program, but lots of great local programming still to come here on CBC Radio 1, including Radio Noon. Host Marjorie Dowhouse joins me in the studio now for a preview. What's to come?
Well, how about I turn my mic
Why
on there? Chloe, you had this interview, this discussion on Monday. Yeah, we're talking about Meta's AI glasses.
Ooh,
They're
smart
making
glasses.
a splash,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit controversial, something that maybe you thought was only in spy movies, but is actually now in real life. So today's call-in is asking you, what are the pros and cons? What concerns do you have about this technology? What questions do you have around the laws that govern it? Because there's a lot of ethics questions around these glasses. Maybe you're someone who wants to buy them because you just want to get the latest and coolest gadgets. So give us a call. Join the conversation coming up at 12:15 this afternoon on Radio Noon.
Incredible. The whole time I was having that conversation, I was like, I want to hear what people think about this. Like, beyond the experts, like, would you buy it? What would you use it for? Why wouldn't you buy it? So looking forward to that.
I
Thanks.
know. I'm someone who's really like into new tech things, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, okay, there's some questions around these, but
Right.
we want to hear from you, of course. So join the conversation.
Amazing. Thank you, Marge.
Thanks, Chloe.
That is CBC's Marjorie Dowhouse. Make sure you tune in to Radio Noon at 12 p.m. It's time now for your CBC local news.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, it is 22 degrees. And how is it already the middle of July? We've got a seasonal temperature for the day, a high of 25. Good chance we'll see some showers on and off through the day. The family of a Winnipeg man killed by police on Monday says he was kind and lived with mental health issues. Manitoba's police watchdog says the 42-year-old was shot by an officer outside a home in Linden Woods. Police say they got a 911 call from a man reporting a family dispute, the caller telling police his brother had locked him out of the house they shared and was behaving erratically. Erica Smith says the man who died was her brother-in-law and may have been in crisis. She has questions about how police handled the incident.
A lot of it is concern about mental health, and their reaction to mental health is my concern mostly. I don't think it could have ended like this.
Police say they always consider using the Alternative Response to Citizens in Crisis program, also known as ARC. It pairs plainclothes police officers with mental health workers to respond to non-emergent and non-violent crisis situations. In this case, police say an ARC team was not sent. Manitoba's police watchdog continues investigating. Mixed reviews of the 10-day Winnipeg police crackdown on open drug use and trafficking. Some organizations praise the effort, but one outreach worker says it left the streets feeling militarized. Mitch Bourbonniere has been doing outreach work in the community for 47 years. He says he has never seen it this bad, but he thinks the focus should be on drug dealers, not users.
I'm not against the police. We need the police, but go after the predators. The people using are victims. The people selling are predators.
Winnipeg police ended their 10-day open drug use crackdown earlier this month. Some Winnipeg housing advocates and tenants want governments to regulate how hot buildings can get. After Winnipeg's recent heat wave, there are calls for the city to adopt protections for renters. Other cities like Toronto have proposed bylaws setting a maximum indoor temperature of 26 degrees. But the Professional Property Managers Association of Manitoba says paying for upgrades could be difficult. Avram Sharak is the association president.
Theoretically, philosophically, morally, 100% on side. It's not cheap. It's a few $1,000s per suite, and we're happy to do it as long as it doesn't end up completely putting us out of business by doing improvements.
The association says government subsidies or other financial supports would be needed to help landlords install air conditioning in older buildings. Well, fresh off setting new record for summertime electricity use, Manitoba Hydro is about to defend its plan to keep the air conditioning on for decades to come. Hydro's long-term plan to generate more electricity will soon be at public hearings. Hydro's plans call for the construction of 3 new power plants in Brandon, which run on natural gas. James Wilt at Manitoba's Climate Action Team says there are other options.
They're not looking at viable alternative solutions to this aside from the gas-fired power plant. And so they've kind of set up the whole process to point towards the one solution that they want while marginalizing all the rest of them.
Wilt says Manitoba could use more battery storage. Hydro says that won't work in this climate. 6 straight weeks of public hearings into Hydro plans begin July 27th. Wheelchair rugby is helping a 33-year-old woman rediscover her athletic spirit. Brianna Seawald's life changed after a car crash left her in a wheelchair at the age of 27.
I was a very active person, and it was hard. It was hard to lose that. And so I got it back here for just a little bit, and it's like it reminded me of who I was before, and I could still have that. So it was nice.
The Manitoba Wheelchair Sport Association put on a free tryout event for the sport. Now it hopes to start a team in Steinbach this fall. Seawald says she's all in and now has her eyes set on the national women's rugby team. The first ever Women's Wheelchair Rugby World Championships is this December in Paris. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day. Just head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thank you very much, Heather.
Thanks.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. Heading to our show technician, Abby Adiemi, for one last look at the forecast. Hey, Abby.
Hey, Chloe. Across the province today, we still have heat warnings and, of course, a wildfire smoke impacting parts of the northern regions this morning. But for the southern areas, we're looking at cooler weather conditions and the risk of thunderstorms to go with most of the areas. Down south, we're seeing temperatures between 17 and 22 at this time, with light rain touching most of the regions, and we'll see highs close to 25, 26. But up north, we will see temperatures crawling into the 30s, and it's hot and smoky there, but relief on the way for tomorrow. Winnipeg right now, 22, aiming for 25.
Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey Funk is back for one last look at the commute.
Yes, less chance of roads buckling today. Going to be a lot cooler out there. Thank goodness. You can't win here in Manitoba. Either they're buckling because it's too hot or there's potholes. Really, no fun. Roads, though, otherwise, haven't heard of any major issues out there in the city or on the highways. Of course, still closed highways in Parkland region because of floods. But if you do see anything else going on out there, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. Well, tomorrow, 204-788-3093.
All right, save those calls for tomorrow, folks.
Yes.
Thank you to the team on the show today. Our associate producers, Emily Enns, Michaela Van Kooten, Sophia Peralta-Barone. Thanks to the news team, Heather Wells, Joni Nicolou, and Megan Ketchinson. To Corey Funk, Abby Adiemi, and Darren Morash. And thank you to Leif Larson and Nellie Gonzalez. I'm Chloe Friesen. Thanks for joining us this morning. I'll be back with you tomorrow. The Current is next.